I struggled with everything. The runs, the swims, the O course was the only thing that ever came natural. So I'm going through Hell Week and I ended up getting pneumonia. So I went back in the next day and rang the bell. And I regretted it immediately. I had never quit anything in my life. I ended up going back to BUBS. My package got accepted right away. And I'm going through Hell Week again, and I'm actually doing pretty well. But I come home that Tuesday and the apartment's cleaned out and my wife is gone and my little girl's gone. So now I'm just a zombie. So this was my second Hell Week, so I didn't make it as far, but it was different. I knew exactly what I had to do. I'm like, I'm going to become a SEAL. All I want to do is go to BUBS. So go back in, I'm passing all my runs now, passing all my swims now. I'm like, oh, this is going to be different. And in Hell Week, Steel Pier got me again, and this time it was CYP. So they rolled me.
And you have to start all over.
And I got to start all over. And then I became the LPO of the next class because I was in the 6. And I made it through that Hell Week, no problem. And then I had an amazing career in the SEAL teams.
Did any of them stand out as being harder than the others for the periods that you were in, or was it pretty consistent?
Team Dog. Premium meals designed to keep your dog healthy, happy, and strong, to improve digestion, boost energy, and support a shiny coat. Non-GMO ingredients. No fillers, no gluten, no corn, no seed oils, and no soy. Just pure, high-quality ingredients to fuel your dog's best life. It was crafted by experts made for your dog, Navy SEAL K-9 trainer, and nutritionists. Team Dog Food, where no piece goes to waste.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, it's both an honor and a pleasure to welcome my next guest to the podcast. He's a retired SEAL chief, spent 22 years, multiple combat deployments. Team 7 ultimately ended up being the course manager for Naval Special Warfare Combatives, spearheading the development of the current NSW combative and combatives instructor programs. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt, U.S. CCA firearms instructor, spent 6 years as a San Diego firefighter, founder of American Warrior Combatives, and author of Pressing Forward. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Randy Rozzell.
Hey, thanks, Mike. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming. We talked a little bit before we started recording, and I was an instructor around the same time you went through, but we missed each other from my lung injury being gone. But it's interesting, the kind of full circle moment of you being in the area and having such a fascinating and connected background. And I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show and sharing your story.
Oh, yeah, it's an honor to be here. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. What's the last book that you've read?
Oh, my goodness. Well, right now my career has gone into sales.
Yeah.
So the last book I read was about being a better salesperson. It was called Sales EQ by Jeb Blount. And it's really just about like connecting, building good rapport, and reading, your customers' emotions and connecting with them that way. So I typically don't read sales books, but since I have a career in sales now, I figured it wouldn't hurt me and it would only help me. And, as both of you and I both being former SEALs, we're always students of whatever we want to be good at.
Yeah.
We read and we study.
Yeah.
Amen. Those things.
Do you have a favorite quote?
Oh my goodness. I've got a few. Probably the one that's written over my heart, and you'll get a kick out of this. When you went through Hell Week, did the chaplain give you a Bible once you graduated?
I don't think he did, actually.
Okay. So for those of us that wanted one, the chaplain gave us a Bible with just the New Testament. And inside it, he had Micah 6:8, which is, what does the Lord require of you? But to do what is just, love what is right, and walk humbly with your God. So, I think as husbands, fathers, men going on in the world, and we think about all the things that we should be doing, and am I doing enough, and everything else. I try to bring it back to that one. Yeah. What is required of me? Yeah. Well, hey, love what is right, do what is just, walk humbly with God. It keeps it pretty simple.
I love that, man. That's fantastic. I imagine that's something that's been kind of ever present in your life ethos since then.
Yeah, since then, I was kind of lukewarm Christian when I went through BUDS. It's always nice to be Christian on a nice sunny day outside, right? But I didn't actually become truly Christian until I was baptized September 21st, 2014.
Oh, wow.
So
where was that? Was that in San Diego? Or?
Yeah, Green Valley Church out in the Pacific Ocean.
Oh, that's awesome.
But so it's I wrote a book and I talk about my journey to Christ in that book, and it's a little different than most. I think I studied my way back to God.
Yeah.
So
I love it. That's fantastic to hear. I know we'll get back into that later in the show for sure. But I'd love to hear. Or I'm looking forward to hearing more about it for sure. What was your favorite thing to do growing up?
Playing football.
Yeah. Where are you from?
Here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm from small town Texas. I grew up in the Bowie, Nocona area, Montague County.
I've never even heard of it.
It's about 2 hours west of here.
Oh, okay. It's
Yeah.
like by past Weatherford?
Yeah, Wichita Falls.
Yeah, okay.
So if you head out towards Wichita Falls, on the 287, you'll blink and pass Bowie.
Yeah, okay.
And Ocona's only got 2 stoplights.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah. What was growing up there like other than playing football, which is everything here in Texas?
Yeah. And I had a lot of fun growing up there. I had a group of friends that we're still friends today. We all still live relatively close to each other. We get together fairly often. I lost contact with them my entire time in the teams, so they all thought I was dead. But once I retired, I was able to reconnect with all of them through Facebook actually, and they're like, "Holy crap, you're still alive!" And now we get together, like we probably have a reunion like once every 6 months, and just hang out. And so it was pretty cool. But growing up there was, there was hunting and fishing and exploring just like you do in like small town Texas. And even though I was never really a good hunter, we would go and it always just turned to whatever moved we ended up shooting, right? Like it is when you're a kid, and fishing. But my grandparents had 72 head of cattle on a small ranch, and so I grew up around, horses and cattle. And
was that part of, like, from an employment standpoint, or did you work a lot on that farm, and did you have siblings? What did your parents do?
My dad owned a restaurant in Bowie, and I grew up from 3rd grade all the way through high school washing dishes.
Oh, nice.
And bussing tables at his restaurant 12 hours a day in the summers and on weekends. So and all that did was solidify in me. I never wanted to have anything to do with the restaurant business.
Yeah.
I absolutely hated it.
Yeah.
We would get up at 3:30 in the morning to drive in. Here I am, a kid, getting up at 3:30 in the morning, driving into work to help Dad open up so he could have all the biscuits ready for the road crews that would come in at 5.
Yeah.
So it's just that's a lot of the stuff people don't see about the restaurant business, all the prep that goes in beforehand. And
yeah, it's tough work for sure.
So,
did you play any other sports other than football?
I did powerlifting.
Oh, okay.
I was pretty good. I got inducted to my Athletic Hall of Fame for football. I got like first team all-district linebacker, and then I was third in my sophomore year. I was alternate for state in powerlifting. My junior year, I was third in state. My senior year, I was picked to win state in my weight class. I ended up pulling my hamstring in my opening lift.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
from an upbringing standpoint, was there a catalyst or a thought process for wanting to join the military early on, or what was that light switch for you that made you want to join?
well, I'm 50, and you told me you're 47, so we're close to the same age. We probably grew up watching the same movies.
For sure. Yeah. Rambo.
So, yeah, Rambo, and Navy SEALs with Charlie Sheen. But I didn't really know anybody in the military. I definitely didn't know any SEALs growing up, or anybody that had even tried to be a SEAL. I just remember watching those movies and thinking to myself, we had this group of old men at my grandparents' restaurant, and a lot of them were World War II vets, and they would meet every day for coffee and pie, like around 2-3 p.m. At my grandparents' restaurant. And I think we just kind of romanticized, those World War II vets, in our head and what they did. And I knew if there was ever a war, and I thought I missed the war of our generation, right? I saw the first Gulf War, on TV in high school. But I just thought if there ever was one, when I spoke to my kids and my grandkids and they were like, what did you do? I wanted to at least be able to say, well, I served.
Yeah.
So, and then growing up, I grew up pretty poor. It was just me and my dad. And I talk about it in the book, but because I lived with my mom. I ran away from home when I was 14. But yeah, it was just a good experience for me, being in that small town, growing up there, doing those things. And then joining the military was what I used to pull me out of that small town. Because not having much money, I didn't have any money for college. My dad definitely didn't have any money. I was a good athlete, but I wasn't a great athlete, at least not an athlete that was good enough that college scouts were going to come to a little 2A school, yeah. Right, and be like, oh, he's the one. And, I wasn't that outstanding. Yeah. So I used the Navy to pull me out of that small town and to give me a future. Yeah. And I did well in my abs fab, so the Navy sought me out. They were sending me stuff all the time, and it felt good to be wanted. Yeah. Because definitely, nobody was, knocking on my door for football scholarships. So yeah. The Navy actively calling me and seeking me out. Hey, that felt good for a kid. Yeah. And that's why I joined. To where did you grow up?
Waterloo, Iowa.
Okay.
So a similar kind of environment to small town Texas.
So we had, I don't know if you guys had something similar, but we'd have what we called the drag. And yeah. High school kids or guys that would graduate high school would come pick up their girlfriends that were still in high school at lunch and drive them around the drag at lunch. Yeah. And then after school, these same guys that had already graduated high school would show up there, pick up their high school girlfriends, and drive them around the drag again. And when I was a freshman in high school, I wasn't driving yet. I would walk back and forth to the field house for football practice. And I always just said to myself, when I graduate high school, I'm not going to be one of these turds that's got nothing else to do, pick up my high school girlfriend at lunch and then after school, waiting on her to get out so I can just drive around the drag. I'm like, I'm going to find something, I don't care what it is, better to do than that. And the Navy was like, hey, come join. I'm like, great.
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask what was the dynamic like with you and your mom that ended up or transpired in you running away?
She was an alcoholic and abusive. Mm. So at 14, I'd finally had enough. And my dad had told me, because I'd go see my dad every other weekend, which is kind of common for divorced parents, right? He had finally told me, because I had 2 stepbrothers and a stepmother, and they were both older than me, and they thought it was their God-given right to beat the shit out of me every other weekend, right? So Just the way stepbrothers are with younger brothers, so I don't blame him for any of that. It's just the way it is. But he finally divorced her, so they got a divorce. And he's like, Randy, if you ever want to get out of that, you can come live with me now. And sure enough, that night he dropped me off, I went in, and it was the typical every time I got dropped off. And I called him. That night I stood up to my mom. It was the only time I ever stood up to her. And I called him the next day and said, hey, Dad, can you come get me? And Texas Child Protective Services said he couldn't. It would be kidnapping.
Yeah.
So I had a suitcase and my dog. And I walked a mile down the road to the Allsups. And he had to get the guy, his name was Gene Roberts from Roberts Radiator Shop, to drive down to, at the time she was living in Azle. So he had to drive the 2 hours to Azle to pick me up at the Allsups, sitting on the corner with a suitcase and my dog.
Wow.
And Gene had to pick me up and drive me to Bowie to my dad, so it wasn't kidnapping.
Damn, that's wild. That's a brutal way to transition households.
Yeah.
So I guess moving forward, you want to get out of that environment. You joined the Navy. At first, though, you're a corpsman, correct? And
Yes.
and did Fleet Marine Force kind of stuff? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, so I didn't know what to do. I mean, I told you the Navy sought me out. I did well on my ASVAB, and I passed the nuclear power program test, and that's what they really wanted me to go into. But I was young and naive, and I didn't know what really nuclear power meant. They told me, oh, you'll get to go on a sub, and you'll get to do this, and that scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, get to go on a sub.
Yeah, well, I'm from, corn-fed Mullet, Texas. Being on a submarine with 100 other dudes underneath, the ocean didn't sound like anything I wanted to be part of.
Yeah.
So the recruiter back then, the internet wasn't big then. And he had drove an hour to my grandparents' restaurant, and me, him, and my dad sat there, and he had this big poster out in front of us. I don't know if you remember seeing it when you joined, because I think you joined just a couple of years after I did.
Yeah.
And it had every rate on the Navy, and they had them blocked off into squares. And he was like, Randy, I don't think you understand how well you've done. I was like, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, normally, you see how they're blocked off into these groups here? I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, normally when you score from here to here, you get to pick this group. When you score here to here, you get to pick this group. I'm like, yeah. He's like, you can pick anyone on the whole poster. I was like, oh. So now I'm looking at all these things, they've got the rating symbol, and it's like bosun's mate, machinist mate, and, sonar tech, and it's got all their rating, little symbols, and I don't know what the hell I'm looking at. It's all French. And my dad's looking down, and he's reading them. And he comes across corpsman, and my aunt had just graduated nursing school, and she became an RN. And he goes, Randy, why don't you pick this corpsman one? I'm like, oh, what's that? He goes, well, it says they train you in medical that you can serve, in the Navy or with the Marines or on ships or in some type of special warfare. I'm like, well, that sounds, so I don't have to go on a submarine? He was like, yeah, I didn't really say anything about submarines on here. I was like, yeah, okay. He was like, and then when you get out, he's like, at least you'll have some type of medical skill. I'm like, yeah, okay. So that was really it. That was the conversation. I'm like, I'll be a corpsman.
Yeah, wow. You go to Great Lakes, I assume?
Yeah, so I went to Great Lakes, and I did well in boot camp. I got advanced to E2 out of boot camp because of those 4 boot camp tests we take. I did well on those. Then I went off to Corps School, and then I went off to Field Medical Service School, and I loved being with the Marines. I kind of fit the look of a Marine, and half the time people thought I was a Marine anyways.
Yeah.
Because I was young and in shape, and I didn't mind having my hair cut short. So, and I did really well with the Marines. But when September 11th happened, that kind of changed everything for me, because I remembered those old men that sat around that table, And I always thought like about my kids and my grandkids, like, hey, Dad, what did you do during the war of your generation? Well, I found out that I didn't want to just say that I served, that I wanted to say I served at the best of my abilities. And to me, that was with the SEAL teams. And I had already taken the recon screening test. I was going to go recon because, I started being drawn to Special Forces. But I had to wait 18 months to go recon. And I don't know if you remember. Do you remember a magazine that used to come out? It was called The Link Perspective.
Uh-uh.
So it was a magazine that would come out, by the Navy. It was really the Detailer's magazine. And it would say what needs of the Navy were, where they needed people. And a message came out in the link saying that if you wanted to go to BUBS and become a SEAL, there was no minimum activity toward that you had to do at your current command. If you could go take the test, pass the test, you would get orders, you didn't have to wait. So I was waiting like 18 months before I could class up with BRC. And then that message came out, and I was like, well, I'd rather be a SEAL anyways. So I went over to the dive locker at Recon. This is in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. I'm like, hey, can you guys give me this BUDS test instead? And they're like, no, F you, Doc. So I ended up having to drive down to Charleston, South Carolina, do an EOD unit there.
Oh, wow.
To give me the BUDS screening test. And then the chief down there tried to talk me into going to EOD the whole time. He was like, well, you can do a lot of stuff SEALs can do with EOD. And he's like, we need people and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not a SEAL.
Yeah.
So passed the screening test, and then 3 months later, off I went to, Coronado.
Yeah. Taking one step back, I saw one of the notes I had was that you did martial arts instructing for the Marines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was that something you did growing up, or how did you get into that position?
Volunteered for it. I took Taekwondo as a kid, which is pretty worthless.
Yeah.
As an actual martial art to defend yourself. I found that out the hard way. But it was good for me. It was when I was living with my mom. She did put me in Taekwondo because I got in a lot of fights as a kid. A lot of fights, which is typical of kind of kids that grow up in rough homes, right? And plus my stepbrothers and then all their friends, because stepbrothers don't have the same type of loyalty as like real brothers do. Because I had a little brother, but I could beat his ass, but nobody else better touch him, right? The stepbrothers don't have that.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, beat his ass, we don't care.
Yeah.
So I fought a lot. And then since I was fighting all the time, I didn't like sucking at fighting because I did suck. And so I had begged my mom to put me in martial arts. And, we grew up watching Chuck Norris and, Bruce Lee. So I thought Taekwondo was the answer. And it wasn't. But it was discipline for me. And it did, it made me flexible.
Yeah.
It taught me how to kind of punch and kick. But so I was always super interested in martial arts. And when I joined the Marines, went with the Marines, they first had the line training. So I got to do the Marine Corps line training. I was like, oh, this is cool. And then they came out with the MCMAP program. And they chose 4 corpsmen and 4 Marines to go through the first course at Camp Lejeune that they were holding. And like I said, I always kind of looked more of like the poster child a little bit for corpsmen, and corpsmen was serving with the Marines. And since I stayed in shape as a corpsman, and since I was motivated, and they were like, hey, you want to go to this? I'm like, heck yeah, I want to go to that. So I went off to their MCMAP program and became an instructor in that.
Considering where you're at now, combatives wise, and the experience that you have, looking back on that, is it a fairly formidable and practical program, or was it a little more smoke and mirrors, or what's your take on it now?
I don't think it was smoke and mirrors. I don't think it concentrated on combat enough, because this was I went through that in early 2001. And we learned a lot of lessons, right, after September 11th. And before then, who did we really have? The Gulf War wasn't much of a war, right? So it was like really the Vietnam vets. I mean, there were little skirmishes, but nobody really had the type of combat experience that, we got after September 11th. And so I think it made you a better bar fighter than it did actually for operating, which was better, way better than nothing. And it was better than the CQ. Did you go through CQD? Yeah. It was better than CQD, but it still wasn't what I thought people at our level needed.
Right.
What I did like about it was they trained all the time. Even regular, Marine units would go as far as PT, like train like every Tuesday and Thursday. They do PT Monday, Wednesday, Friday. They go train, MCMAP Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I'm like, even if it's a little bit of a subpar system in my mind from where I'm at now, well, training and developing that mindset is way better than not.
Right. Yeah. It's fascinating thinking of kind of the progression of combat units from, say, mid-90s to present day, how much it's evolved. But so, all right, so you wrap up time in the Marines, 9/11. As 9/11 happens, you take the test, you find yourself at BUDS. Now, your career path through BUDS was a little different than I think most, in that had some hurdles to overcome. Kind of walk us through your fifth time's a charm BUDS experience.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, so I like to lift weights, and I was a power lifter, and I even got sponsored by the Navy to do some powerlifting meets. So when I showed up to, like right now, I'm only 5'9". I'm not a tall guy, but I'm 190 pounds now, and when I showed up to BUDS, I was 215 pounds.
Oh wow.
So I was a big boy for 5'9", and even though I could pass the screening test and everything else, I was not in the shape I needed to be for BUDS. I was too damn muscular and too damn heavy, and I struggled with everything. The runs, the swims, the O course was the only thing that ever came natural to me. So I'm going through Hell Week, and I ended up getting pneumonia. This was before they coined it CYP.
Yeah.
So they called it pneumonia back then. So I got rolled, and I had just got married, and I left my wife back on the East Coast. And she was like, "You're going to miss our first anniversary. We just had our daughter." And she was like, "You're going to miss our daughter's first birthday. You're going to miss all this stuff because now you're not going to graduate on time." She was like, "You're already failing runs. You're already failing swims." She was like, "Why don't you just come home and get in better shape, and we'll come back with you the next time." So I went back in the next day, and I rang the bell.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's I would say a powerful component of your wife being able to convince you to do that.
It was, when you're going through that and you're so invested and you get hurt, you don't make it through, and you get rolled, that emotional.
Yeah, it's tough.
And then, you're thinking about starting it all over again. And then you and your wife are arguing on the phone every night, already before I even went into Hell Week. And so I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. I don't want to miss our first anniversary. I don't want to miss Emily's first birthday. I'm not doing as well as I thought I was going to be doing. Yeah. So I went in the next day, and they actually tried to talk me out of it.
Oh, wow.
Which, is very unique.
Yeah.
They're like, "Hey, Rozzell, we like you. We don't want to see you go away. Are you sure you want to do this?" And I'd never seen them actually talk and give a crap about anybody.
Yeah.
They're like, "You got a lot of heart." And I was like, "No, I got to do what's right for my family." And I did. I rang the bell. And I regretted it immediately.
BUBS Naturals has been supporting this show for a very long time, and I've been a fan of their collagen for years. I use it every single day. But I have to tell you, I'm genuinely fired up about what they just launched. It's their creatine monohydrate. Now look, creatine isn't anything new. Most of you know what it does. It's more energy, faster recovery, lean muscle, better focus under stress and fatigue. It's one of the most researched supplements on the planet, recognized by the International Society of Sports Nutrition. The problem is most creatine on the market is garbage. A recent study found roughly 50% of creatine products exceeded impurity limits, and most of it's manufactured in China with zero accountability. BUBS sources exclusively from Creapure. It's made in Germany under very strict quality controls. It's the purest creatine monohydrate available. There's no fillers, there's no hype. 100% NSF for sport certified. You know exactly what you're putting in your body. And here's what makes BUBS different from any other supplement company out there. The brand is a tribute to former Navy SEAL Glenn "Bub" Doherty, who laid down his life serving Americans in Benghazi. Glenn stood for self-improvement and always helping others. That's the DNA of this entire brand. BUBS donates 10% of all profits to charity in his honor. That's a company absolutely worth supporting. Live better longer with BUBS Naturals. For a limited time, get 20% off your entire order with code MICDROP, all caps, all one word, at bubsnaturals.com. That's BUBS Naturals.com, code MICDROP for 20% off.
And then what was so funny was, not funny, but I became very angry after that. Like, I blamed BUDS, I blamed the military, I blamed, like, for my quitting. Like, I had never quit anything in my life. Like, one of the things, you know, I told you I got inducted in my Athletic Hall of Fame. I also got the Fighting Heart Award. So, like, and it wasn't a joke award. It was like a real award, you know, through our high school. You know, like, who's got the strongest heart out of all the sports. And I got given that. So, like, I never quit anything. And that, like, me quitting something, like, just devastated me. And so I was angry. I was angry at the Navy. I was angry at BUDS. I drank a lot. And I ended up getting back to South Carolina. And they put me at Charleston Naval Hospital. And it was a good time. I got to watch my girl grow up, you know, my daughter. I tried to work on my marriage. And I did exactly what I said we were going to do. I ended up going back to BUDS, bringing them with me. My package got accepted right away. And I had gone from 215 down to 205, but I still wasn't in the shape I needed to be. I was still struggling. I could swim a lot better, but I still wasn't. Runs were always the toughest part of me for BUDS. And so my ex-wife had gotten molested as a child. And she was dealing with all of that. And her grandfather, while I was going through BUDS, had just got arrested for molesting one of the other children.
Oh,
wow. And it brought all of that mess back to her. So, like, she is dealing with all of that. Well, she's like, she wanted to leave me and go back to the East Coast and be with her mom and dad again. And I'm like, don't leave. She's like, I can't be here. And I'm like, please don't leave. And I thought I had talked her into staying. And this was Tuesday before Hell Week. So I come home that Tuesday, and the apartment's cleaned out, and she's gone. And my little girl's gone. And I'm calling her on the phone, like, hey, where are you at? She's like, I'm heading back to Georgia. I'm like, you told me you wouldn't leave. She was like, I know, but I just can't stay. I'm like, just turn the car around. Just be with me till the end of Hell Week. I'm like, I need to know Emily's there when I come out of this thing. I need to know she's on the other side. And she's like, sorry, I'm not turning around.
wow.
And so now I'm just a zombie. right, for the whole rest of the week. Going to Hell Week, and I'm actually doing pretty well. But you remember how we would do rock portage down behind the Hotel Del?
Mm-hmm.
But during Hell Week, we did rock portage down in IB, right? You know how the rocks went out like this?
Yeah.
Well, I was bow line man, and I accidentally got between the rocks and the boats, and I got tacoed backwards over some rocks, and I hyperextended my knee. So you'd asked me earlier if I had any knee injuries. I've had knee injuries, but I've recovered from all of them, so I don't have any permanent knee injuries. And so they caught me at Chow that night, hopping, right?
Yeah.
Like, Rozzell, get over here. And I hadn't looked at it. I was scared to look at it, right? And it was all swollen up. Like my whole body, my calf, my ankle, my knee, everything looked like a Cabbage Patch.
Man.
You know, kid, with the big fat ankles and the fat calves and everything. I was like, oh shit. And he's like, I got to roll you. And this was the phase corpsman on the beach. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, can I at least go to medical? You do something? He was like, you're going to destroy your knee. He goes, we've got to roll you. I'm going to take you to medical right now. You can't continue on that.
And what day of Hell Week is this?
This was Tuesday.
Wow.
And so he goes, the first one I made it to Wednesday night when we were doing Still Pier. That's when I got the pneumonia. They called it at med checks. And one of the reasons I got so bitter the first time, because if I'd made it one more day,
they'd have rolled you forward.
I could have got rolled forward. So I was like, just let me keep going one more day.
Yeah.
One more day. So that was my first Hell Week and they're like, no. So I think that was one of the reasons I was so angry, because I was like, fuck, if I could have just gone one more day, I could have got rolled forward. So this was my second Hell Week, right? And this was on Tuesday, so I didn't make it as far. And I go, if you roll me, I'll quit. He goes, well, you can hop your ass over to the bell then and quit. And he's like, because I can't let you keep going. And I did.
Wow.
And I think I hated myself even more that time than I did the first time. So now they take me, and after quitting, I'm like, I go see the detailer, and I'm like, hey, you got to get me back to the East Coast. I'm like, I can go back to Camp Lejeune, I can go back to Charleston Naval Hospital, somewhere, anywhere, give me the East Coast so I can fix my marriage, see my daughter, all this. He goes, sorry, shipmate, needs of the Navy, we need you back with the Marines in Okinawa, Japan.
Man.
And I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to fix my marriage from Okinawa, Japan? He's like, that's not my problem. I was like, even though I was mad at him, he did me the biggest favor ever. So I went to Okinawa after that, but it was different. I wasn't angry. I knew exactly what I had to do. I'm like, I'm going to become a SEAL. I'm not going to let this keep knocking me out of the saddle. I've mentally broke twice, and even though you could say getting injured is an excuse to do what I did, I still felt mentally that I was weak, that I still mentally let myself down. Because I'm like, I could have sucked it up. I could have stayed in rollback land. I didn't have to do what I did. I didn't have to ring the fucking bell. And it ended up, I quit. I ended up leaving exactly what I wanted to do to try to work on a marriage that I wasn't even going to be able to work on.
Yeah. So
I'm like, what the hell was all that for anyways? So I ended up going to Okinawa, but I wasn't angry like I was the first time. Went and served with the Marines. Again, did well with them again. Won a battle skills competition over there. That they gave me a NAM for.
How long were you there for?
A year.
Okay. And
I came back, and I told the detailer, I'm like, all I want to do is go to BUBS. All I want to do is go to BUBS.
Was there any, sorry to interrupt,
Mm-hmm.
but I remember as an instructor, I thought I remembered there being a rule that if you quit a second time, you weren't allowed to come back. Was there Was that ever brought up?
When I redid the package, they needed corpsmen.
Oh, okay.
So I think being a corpsman is what saved my bacon.
Wow.
And the fact that, if you couldn't come back if you hadn't made it into Hell Week, right? If you'd quit before Hell Week.
Oh, okay.
But since both of mine, I was into Hell Week, and then when I quit once I was into Hell Week, they allowed me to come back.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I definitely think somebody, God or somebody was looking out for me, because it was not the norm to allow somebody to do that. But I made it through. I slipped through the cracks.
Wow. So you get back within a year, smooth sailing, or?
Well, kind of. So at first they put me at at San Diego Hospital. So I couldn't go back to BUBS from Okinawa. I had to go to the hospital first. As soon as I checked in, this time I'm at E6. And they're like, I just told them, hey, I just want to go to BUBS. I don't want an LPO position. I don't want. So they pretty much made up me a job because they knew what I wanted to do. So I just worked out pretty much all day. In the mornings, I would get up and go down to Dog Beach. I'd run all those soft sand runs. At lunch, I would do all my calisthenics. In the evenings, or once I was done with work, I would go to MCRD and just swim in the pool. Every Saturday, I would show up to the O course. I'd run the O course, and I'd do a 13-mile run down to IB and back.
How
I did that
old
for
were you?
28.
Wow.
And then I had to get a waiver.
Yeah.
Because I was turning 29 before, so I went ahead and filled out the waiver because just in case I didn't get, got delayed, but I didn't, which was nice. And doing things at 28, 29 sucks.
Yeah.
Compared to when you're in your earlier 20s. So go back in. I'm passing all my runs now, passing all my swims now. I'm like, oh, this is going to be different, because I was crushing the times. I'm like, because I'd taken that year in Okinawa, and then those 9 months at Balboa. I went from when I first got to Okinawa, I got back up to 215 because I was like, I'm just going to lift weights. I'm angry and mad and just lifting, and that was always the way I dealt with stress. But I went from 215 down to 175.
Wow.
So I'm like, finally. So now I'm looking like a BUD student.
Yeah.
Right.
Instead of commando walking around.
Yeah. Like not a meathead anymore, but somebody that's just in really good shape. And I went through, and in Hell Week, Still Pure got me again, and this time it was CYP.
Wow.
So buddy of mine looks over, he goes, I was coughing at Still Pure, and I was like, he's like, Randy. I'm like, yeah. He's like, you're coughing blood. I looked at my hand. It was just like frothy blood all over my hand. And they put me back in, and I was like, I couldn't, like, my lungs had filled up with water, and I felt like I was drowning. And I always sank like a rock anyways. So now I really couldn't float. So I ended up getting over the edge. They're like, are you quitting, Rozzell? I'm like, no. I'm not quitting. They're like, well, get your ass back out there. So I swam back out, and I'm just I'm sinking. And so I come back over, and I'm like, I just can't breathe. And I'm coughing on the side, and I think the instructor looks down and sees some of the blood that's coming out of my mouth. Like, all right, we'll go see the corpsman. I go over there, and he does a core tempo. My core tempo is like 93, and he does my SpO2, my pulse ox, and it was 70. He's like, Rozzell's going to medical right now. So they rolled me, and it was a 6-month roll. Because they tried to get rid of the winter Hell Week. So this was in November. I didn't class back up again until March.
Man.
So now.
And you have to start all over.
And I got to start all over. So, but now I'm in like rollback land for, PTRR, all that for almost 6 months. And that sucks. Because, at BUDS, you're always running on eggshells.
Yeah.
So, and then I became the LPO of the next class because I was at E6, and I made it through that Hell Week, no problems.
And what class was that?
That was so I was in 240, 248, 258, That's when I got CYP. I made it through Hell Week with 259. Went into second phase, perfed my ear on the dives before pull comp, but tried to tough it through. Couldn't pass pull comp. Had to do 2 second phases.
Dude.
And then made it through. And then I had an amazing career in the SEAL teams.
So
but I made it through all of that by the skin of my teeth.
Man. So 260 you graduated?
I graduated 260.
Dude, the perseverance and the book being called Pressing Forward, certainly makes sense. I mean, that's right up there with as many tries and attempts and Hell Weeks as anybody I've met. Do you know Johnny Collins?
No, but
he has kind of a similar story
okay.
of, having to go through multiple times. And I feel like everybody knows somebody that, has gone through multiple Hell Weeks, but I mean, damn, four Hell Weeks.
Yeah. Do you know Dean Cummings?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dean looked it up. He's like, Randy, I think you're the only one that went into Hell Week actually 4 times.
Yeah, that's very possible. That's crazy. I am curious. I mean, as the only person I think I know that's gone through 4, I think 3 maybe is the other. There's maybe a couple people that have had similar things, but with 3, were they all the same? Did any of them stand out as being harder than the others for the periods that you were in, or was it pretty consistent?
It was pretty consistent. Yeah. I mean, we did almost this exact same evolutions in almost the exact same order. The first time, I stuck around at least till Wednesday because I was just curious. I was like, how much worse can this get?
Yeah.
Like it was out, but all the others, I knew exactly what was coming, and I'm like, oh God, this is all gonna suck, and it's just gonna keep getting worse and worse and worse. So, no, but there wasn't one that I would say was worse than the others. I mean, they were. What was great about the last one was my body held up.
Yeah, which is surprising because you were the oldest by quite a bit then.
True,
just the
The
weight difference.
The weight difference, being in the better shape, not carrying the extra muscle and weight, and then the one in November where I got CYP rained on us the whole time.
Yeah.
So with the extra humidity in the air, I think that was 11 of us got CYP during that Hell Week.
Wow.
So 11 or 13 of us. No, there was 13 of us that got CYP. 11 of us actually classed up again with the next class. We lost. Like 2 of them were just like, I'm done. But yeah, so that was quite a large number, and I think it was because it rained on us all during that Hell Week. And then when I went through in April, it was still just as fucking cold. It was freezing in April, but it was dry.
Yeah.
So I think my lungs, because like I said, my lungs had failed me twice. Well, one because I had too much damn muscle on me, and the second time was because I think it was raining. But the fourth one, I think it just all came together, and it was meant to be. So
that's wild. I mean, so with those time frames, I for sure worked at least one of your Hell Weeks.
Yeah, probably
as a guest instructor or whatever, or augment. But
my last one, I was also the LPO.
Yeah.
So that one tends to suck.
Yeah.
But also, I didn't want to let anyone else down. Like I was the LPO over these guys for, all of that PTRR time.
Mm-hmm.
I'd really gotten to know these guys. Our OIC quit Monday night, and
wow, that's rare.
Yeah. And I didn't want to disappoint those guys. I didn't want to leave them, and even though it sucks being LPO, it sucked being class corpsman, when I was a corpsman before. But all the extra beatings the LPO gets. I think in some way the leadership helped me.
Yeah.
Because I could really feel not wanting to let other people down, especially after the OIC left.
Yeah, I imagine the accountability piece is a contributing factor for sure. So 4 Hell Weeks, you finally graduate with 260. Mm-hmm. From a drawing inspiration for perseverance standpoint, is there a thing that stands out in your mind, whether it's in the book or just reflecting on that amount of time, like, you know, because it's easy to talk about perseverance and, hey, you just have to push forward.
Yeah.
Is there a saying, an ethos, an internal aspect that you kind of deducted from that entire experience of where you actually draw the inspiration and the fire for that perseverance from?
You know, I'd like to say that every day I woke up motivated and I was like, I'm going to do this no matter what. But most of the time I woke up tired, beat down, exhausted. And I was like, I'm just going to be here at the end of the day. You know, I don't want to let people down. I don't want to let myself down. When you let yourself down, right, there's one thing letting other people down, right? It kind of sucks. But when you know you're meant for something and you let your own self down, that is a feeling that is way worse than any temporary pain.
Yeah.
And I knew what that felt like. I knew what letting myself down felt like. I knew that I was meant to be a SEAL. I knew in my heart of hearts. When I went back the first time, when I first got to Charleston Naval Hospital, and I was angry at the Navy and angry at the world, all the corpsmen there, they hadn't met anybody that had even attempted BUDS. So they were super curious. They were always asking me about, oh, what was it like and this and that. And they got me talking about it. And I realized, because at first I was like, screw the Navy, I'm going to get out. I'm going to go become a PJ with the Air Force, right? Because I was already a corpsman, and I was looking at the PJ thing, and I was thinking about getting my degree and becoming like a combat rescue officer, and I was looking at all that stuff. But those guys got me talking about BUDS, and I realized that my heart was still on the beach. I'm like, man, my heart's still out there in the sand of Coronado. Like, I've never quit anything in my life. I can't not make it.
Right.
I can't live with myself this way.
Well, that's amazing. Perseverance, to say the least. I'm curious. I imagine you don't know off the top of your head, but I'd be curious to know what the percentage of attrition is for people who quit and then come back.
I think it's pretty high.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if it's as high as, you know, because the normal attrition rate is 75% or 80%.
I think it's probably higher. I think they say that, like, if you quit and come back, like, it's
even less likely that you'll make it.
You're even less likely.
Yeah.
And I think that's because you know how bad it is.
Yeah.
Like I said, the first time I stuck around just out of pure curiosity, like, how much worse can it get?
Yeah.
Like, I just got to stick around and see.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So you go right to Team 7, and you were there operationally. You spent your whole career at Team 7.
Yeah, I was very lucky that way.
Yeah. You did a number of combat deployments to Afghanistan, correct? I'm curious if you could kind of walk us through, you know, every deployment is different, but just your career path operationally and whenever you started getting into the combatives and training jiu-jitsu, even outside of work or whatever, if you can kind of chronologically walk us through your Team 7 career that way.
Yeah, so I first got to Team 7, and I went to 18 Delta first. After SQT, I went to 18 Delta Special Operations Combat Medic course. There in Fort Bragg, the short course. I didn't go to the long course. And I thought I was a good corpsman before. Then I went through that course, and I was like, oh wow, these guys are actually good medics. Like, I thought I was a good medic being one with the Marines, but these are hands down the best medics. Yeah. Like, the group of Green Berets and recon corpsmen and Rangers and SEAL instructors I had there, I was like, holy crap, these guys are amazing. And I don't give the Army credit for much, but that school, they freaking nailed. And now we've got our own, but, you know, it's just taught by SEALs. But I thought that school was amazing. Yeah. I didn't like being with the Army, but they were hands down the best instructors ever. But I checked into SEAL Team 7, and I didn't have a good experience at first. My first platoon chief, you know, I was so excited. You know, I'm a senior E6 at this point, right? And, you know, I was my BUDS class LPO, my SQT class LPO, And I go to meet my first chief, and I won't say his name, but I was super excited because I knew chiefs run the teams. And, I go into his office. I'm like, hey, chief, Randy Rozzell, nice to meet you. He's like, yeah, I heard you were an LPO all through, BUDS and SQT. I'm like, yes, chief, I was. He's like, well, you're not an LPO here. You're an F&G. I was like, no
Okay.
shit. I mean, at this point, I'd already been in the Navy longer than this guy, and I was older than him. So I'm like, what? Yes, I realize you've been a SEAL longer than me, but like, I'm not a spring chicken anymore, and I've got you on some other things here, like operationally and, SEAL knowledge and
You don't
all
have to
that.
be a dick about it.
Yeah, you don't have to be. Yeah. And I was like, wow. And that's kind of the way my first platoon went.
Yeah.
Everybody hated this guy.
Yeah.
But we got to go to Afghanistan. And that was part of Task Unit Trident. And we got to do God's work over there. It was amazing. All those things that, I'd hoped and dreamed I was going to get to do as a SEAL, I got to do.
Can you say what part of the country you were in?
Yeah, so we were in Kandahar, but we were considered the CRE, so the crisis response element, and we responded all over Afghanistan. Probably the mission that we did that kind of got the most fame was we hit Marjah out in the Helmand province before the big Marine Corps push. So it was 6 months before the Marines pushed through Helmand and went through all that. So we hit a Taliban safe haven there, and we caught 1.2 billion in enemy narcotics.
Wow. Was it all opium?
Yeah, black tar opium.
Wow.
Have you seen it in the bags and the black tar? Right.
1.2 billion?
So you remember the bazaars?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I wasn't in Afghanistan.
Oh, okay.
But
so
Iraq is.
their bazaars are just like flea markets, but this one was Marjah, which was a big Taliban safe haven. Well, if you can imagine a shitty public storage facility, right, that is just turned into shops. That's kind of what it was. Like, they had the roll-up doors, just like a public storage, right? Except old, shitty, and Afghani, right? But we would roll these things up, and there would just be piles of black tar opium bags.
Wow.
And what we also found were just thousands and thousands of blasting caps and ID materials. So all I could think, of course, we bipped it all and blew it all up, and we took all the black tar opium and we burned it all, and we found white processed opium too as well. I got a picture of me holding a brick of it like this. We had a DEA guy with us, and he's like, you're holding, about $500,000 right there. And I'm like, man, that's awesome.
I'll be right back.
I'm going to shove this in my radio pouch, right? No, I'm just joking. There's a kid's college. But no, but we burned it all. And that made like national news and that was all coalition forces. But the only thing I could think of was like how many Marines, because we knew the Marines were going to be doing a big push through there, in months to come, did we just save by, one, knocking out, all their financing by these drugs, but really by finding all those blasting caps and all that ID material that, would have just been IEDs, is taking Marines out left and right. Yeah. So that one was pretty meaningful. It was a 5-day firefight.
Really?
Yeah. So we were there for 5 days.
How did that start? I mean, did you guys do the special recon push and observe and then hit it? Did you have intel and it was a...
No, we knew it was a Taliban safe haven before we went in. And they had been... before we even got there, we were probably in country a month before we hit this. And they had been, the intel guys had been developing this as a target package well before we got there. They're like, this is a place. And then when we got to Afghanistan, they're like, okay, cool. Now we've got, this task unit of SEALs that can actually go hit this thing. Because there were no SEALs in Afghanistan before then, after everything that happened with Marcus.
Yeah.
And that. So we were the first SEALs back in. And so they had already kind of had everything kind of built for us. And we went and hit it, and we patrolled in. We got dropped off about 4 clicks out and patrolled in at night.
And was it just your platoon or a task unit?
No, it was a full task unit.
Yeah.
So we had us and some, it was my platoon, my sister platoon, but we only had 10 of our sister platoon because they were only a squad at the time. And then we had a special forces unit attached to us as well. And, they're A&A guys.
So how many, was there 50, 60 of you guys total?
There's about 50 of us total. And we split the bazaar in half. We took half, and the ODA guys and their A&A guys, or their commandos, took the other half. And
this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. May is Mental Health Awareness, and I want to take a second to actually mean that, not just say it. Where are you at right now? Not the answer you give people just when they ask, but the actual real one. Because a lot of us are carrying more than we let on. Sleepless nights, thoughts that won't quiet down, stress that just sits in your chest and doesn't move. You keep pushing forward because that's what you do. But at some point, pushing through it alone stops working. We're wired to think that figuring it out ourselves is the strong move, and I get it, but some of the most capable, disciplined people I know have had to learn the hard way that having someone in your corner, someone who actually listens without an agenda, changes things. That's what BetterHelp is built for. They connect you with a fully licensed therapist through a short questionnaire that matches you based on your actual needs and what you're going through. There's over 30,000 therapists, more than 6 million people served worldwide. And if your match isn't the right fit, you can switch anytime, no hassle. You don't have to be on this journey alone. Find support and have someone with you in therapy. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/micdrop. That's betterhelp.com/micdrop.
It was a fight for 5 days. So that morning, we already had the roofs, all covered. And when they started driving in to, just literally kind of come to work, if you will, we opened up fire on them and started taking them all out. And then the gig was up. They knew where they were there, and they were fighting hard for it.
For 5 days?
For 5 days.
Did you guys have resupply or any type of QRF or air support?
Yeah. There's a funny story. I almost died. Me and our EOD guy. So we knew we were going to be there for a while. So we brought in a few days of MREs with us and water and everything else. But after like 2 days into it, we're like boiling water out of one of their wells. I can have enough water for the rest of the platoon, right? So me as a corpsman, right, I'm literally fishing water out of this well and like boiling it to give to the boys to drink, right?
Yeah.
And so we get resupply a couple of nights in, and it's in the field, but it got dropped off in the field between us and this tree line that the Taliban, had been using as cover the whole time. So me and our EOD guy, we're running out, to these crates that they dropped off. They dropped off these 3 big crates, and, they're busted open and everything. But, it's all speed bags of ammo and MREs and bottles of water. And so we're running out here with wheelbarrows. He's got a wheelbarrow and I got a wheelbarrow. And, we got our snipers, up doing the overwatch for us. And we're loading shit up, and we're running back in with the wheelbarrows, and they're running back. It's probably 100 yards that we've got to run out into this field, maybe a little further. And the Taliban, they see that the stuff has been dropped off too, so now they're starting to circle around. Well, we ended up having to call in danger close air support to get them away from us, to clear them out from coming and taking our resupply. Well, we're running from cover from behind the mud wall out there. Well, they ended up dropping before my EOD guy, his name was Stretch, him and I made it back in. And I'm in front of him about, 10 feet, and he's behind me about 10 feet. And in between us is this sapling tree, from this little trail that we had made. And that thing hits, damn near blows us off our feet, and a piece of shrapnel cuts that tree in half.
Damn. So it was an IED that they had?
No, that was our air support dropping bombs.
Oh, wow.
Danger close.
Yeah.
Because the Taliban was closing in on the resupply, and we didn't want them to take it.
Yeah. So from kind of the big picture of the overall operation, was there a ballpark of anticipated enemy fighters that you guys were going to encounter?
I mean, we heard, you know what it is. It's always like, oh, we think this, we think that. I mean, we heard anywhere from like 300 that could possibly form against us. I don't know if we got anywhere close to that amount, but we did take fire the entire time.
But so I don't know who was running the show in that area operationally or tactically, but like once you're a day, 2 days into it, do you know, was it ever even discussed if there was a decision that was decided against to send like a big QRF, a Ranger battalion, a conventional outfit to come we squash it?
You couldn't get vehicles there. That was one of the reasons we used the helos. But we had our JTAC at one time was running a stack of 7 aircraft.
Wow.
So we had air support the entire time. So we never felt that we were going to be overrun at all, even though we were taking shots for 5 days and, it was a firefight for 5 days. At no point did we feel like, hey, holy shit, we need a QRF.
Yeah.
Now, all of that had been planned for, but we never needed it.
Okay.
Because the air support was
so covered over. Yeah.
I mean, it saved us, right? I mean,
do you know? Did you get the impression or have any evidence of the Taliban resupplying their guys and bringing more fighters swarming to the area to try to overrun you? Was there any contingency?
Yeah, you would hear those things like, hey, they might be massing, but as far as like, at this time I'm a shooter, right? It's my first platoon. I wasn't part of the C2 element. Yeah. It's like, hey guys, they might be massing up on us. Get ready.
Yeah. I guess I'm just putting myself in a commander's shoes. Whoever's kind of running that operation from back in the TOC. Like I wouldn't want 50 dudes, 2 SEAL platoons, a Green Beret element, and a bunch of commandos out for 5 days mixing it up. If I can just
go in there with
overwhelming, just
conventional forces,
I mean, whatever it takes, right? So I mean, to me, it seems like risk versus reward, like a pretty risky move to allow, 3 units like that working together to engage in a 5-day firefight. Do you have any context?
I think it was due to them not being able to get the vehicles through there, and
so that just by covering down.
Now, the Taliban had vehicles because they were already on one part of the mountains, right. But us navigating through, I think the closest fob was Tombstone.
But I guess being able to multi-layer cover you air support-wise, they would know if there's a huge mass of people and they could just airstrike them, and so they allowed it to continue.
I think our JTAC killed like 40 people the first night.
Wow.
So it was...
when you say 5 days, I mean, I assume there were lulls, right?
Oh, yeah. There were lulls. It wasn't, we were taking fire for 5 days. I wasn't definitely behind the gun for 5 days straight, shooting and moving. And, no, there were definitely lulls in that.
Were you able to, or did you sleep much during that 5-day period?
Yeah, we were on shifts.
Okay.
I mean you've done remain over days.
Yeah, I just I think for between. But
5 days was a long time.
Yeah, that's again just like, not that I have normally or normally would kind of look at it from the commander's intent standpoint, but maybe it's just as I get older or running businesses or whatever, it's hard for me not to look at operations also from the management perspective and think like, what's the most efficient way to accomplish this objective? To me, I don't want to armchair quarterback, but it seems like 5 days is just putting you guys at a pretty high level of risk.
Right. Of like, hey, they can probably amass quite a big group of people in 5 days. I hear what you're saying. I do know that we wanted this win.
Yeah.
Because like I said, we were the first group of SEALs back in there since the thing with Marcus. And we needed to kind of show that, hey, we can have a big win here.
Right.
You can trust us. You can use us.
Yeah.
Right? And it was a big win.
How did it go from 4.5 or however many days of just kind of intermittent firefights to you guys actually being able to advance and clear through the whole thing?
We cleared it all the first night. There was nobody there.
Oh, okay. So you took it over and then they were trying to retake it.
We took it over and they were trying to retake it.
Okay. Well, that makes more sense.
That's how we did almost everything when I was in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Most everything was taken over at night.
So when they were driving in, you guys initiate, basically wipe them all out, move in, clear everything, take it over, and then we're defending it for 5 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we'd have our interpreter taunting them.
That's always smart. So how did it end then with, so it took us a while to go through, like I said, it was bizarre and it was huge. It's kind of like a public storage. So it took us a while to get them all opened up, get all the drugs collected and burn them all. So once we had got everything kind of opened up, and again, we're trying to taunt them because we wanted to kill them because we knew the air support we had. So part of it was not just taking over the bazaar, burning all their drugs and ways to finance themselves. We didn't know we were going to find all that IED material. We knew it was a safe haven for them, and we knew that they used it for their financing. But part of it also was like, hey, can they amass? Will they amass? Will this give us an opportunity to kill a ton of them? Right.
So that was like
part of it too.
Yeah. Like,
wow.
Hey, let's draw them out. We wanted them to amass. We wanted to draw them out so we could kill them.
That makes sense. So I assume then that once you had destroyed everything that needed to be destroyed, then you left. And any idea about how many KIAs over the course of that 5-day period?
It was over 100 for sure.
Yeah. Any super close calls with you or any of your guys?
Yes.
Than the danger close?
We had two Green Berets got shot that we had to medevac out. They were on top of the roof, but I had a super close call with Kenny, our sniper. Him and I were on top of the roof, and I was on the Mark 47, right, the automatic grenade launcher. We called it Painless, right? And he was on the sniper rifle, and we were up there in the sniper hide, and we got an RPG shot at us.
Oh, wow.
And between us, like there was this thick tree line of where we had been taking fire the majority of the time. Even though we dropped bombs after bombs after bomb on this thing, they kept coming back to this particular tree line. It was like the third day, and we got an RPG shot at the sniper hide. And there was like one tree, it wasn't even a full-size tree, between us and the tree line that they shot at. The RPG hits that tree and breaks apart.
Oh, wow.
And rips the sniper hide away from me and Kenny. So we're just there.
Exposed.
But we were just there, like just kind of talking, bullshitting. I'm looking, he's looking. We don't really see anything until all of a sudden we hear it, and then everything disappeared around us. And we're just looking at each other kind of like.
Yeah. What's like?
And then we're like, oh shit, let's get off here. And then of course we didn't be able to hide back there.
It's like the cartoon porta potty like falls around you and you're sitting there on the toilet with nothing around you.
It was literally like that. Him and I know for some reason when we were together, Like, we have a few stories where just him and I were together and just crazy wazoo shit happened. And we had some guardian angel that was just looking out for us, keeping us alive when so on our first stop there, this wasn't Marjah, this was a different op. Our bird got 2 RPGs shot at it.
Oh, wow.
One hits the side and it was a dud, just hit. The other one hits at the wrong angle, bounces off, but busts a fuel line. So now we're leaking fuel all the way back to Kandahar.
Man.
We took small arms fire. All it did was just pepper the bottom of the 47, and nobody got hurt. But now we're leaking fuel all the way back, and we're like, how did we just have 2 RPGs
not go off?
Man. Like, so just that whole deployment, like things like that happened all the time where we're just like, how is nobody dead right now?
Right.
How are we all still here?
That's amazing, man.
So, and this is when I kind of started my journey to Christ.
Yeah,
so
just looking
I'm
around like, how is this happening?
How is this?
Yeah, wow.
I think that deployment made Christians to quite a few people. One thing that the chaplain would come over before every op when we had time, when it wasn't a TST, and of course we'd have the fire in the back, right? And we'd gather everyone around the fire, and the chaplain would pray over us, and then we'd go load the buses, take us to the tarmac to get on the helos.
Yeah.
And
did you find yourself praying at all during that deployment?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like every time.
Every time. Yeah. Wow. Throughout that deployment, were most of your operations similar to that, where it was a pre-planned target package, you're going in to take something over or neutralize a cache or something like that? The
majority of them were, but we had a few TSTs, like when Bergdahl went time-sensitive targets, like when Bergdahl went missing. I was in Afghanistan when that happened.
Oh, really?
So
did you go look for him?
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you with the dev group guys?
No, they were on one part,
okay,
and we were on another part.
Yeah. Wow.
So I had a buddy that was with dev group when we were at Marjah.
Oh, wow.
Doing in that 5-day firefight, and he said the coolest thing was he was in the talk, and he said all the dev group operators kept coming in. Hey, how they doing? Hey, how they doing? Hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Like checking in on us.
That's cool.
I'm like, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really awesome. Any other operations from that deployment that are worth sharing?
I mean, obviously Marjah was like
the highlight.
The highlight of that deployment, but we, like I said, we just had kind of like op after op that was just doing, God's work.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a few times where we actually had to, literally do IADs, immediate action drills, bound back. Like, I'm like, holy crap, we're actually using it. Like in training, we're actually using this because there's we're in an open field and we're being shot at like this.
Did you find that tactic, the way that it's taught in training versus applied in real world, one mirrored it to a T and was as effective as you hoped it would be?
We didn't lose anybody. What it really did was buy our JTAC time. I mean, it wasn't my pea shooter, right? Yeah. That made the difference.
Yeah.
Right.
It was able to break enough contact.
We were able to break enough contact, and since we had the air support, it was really our JTAC and the air support that
got it done.
Yeah.
Was there a difference, kind of in the weeds technique wise of how you learn and practice in training versus how it applied real world? Because that's it's probably the biggest and first thing that I noticed. Our very first real world clearance was the oil platform off the coast of Iraq. And especially leading up to that point, we had done months of all day, every day CQC and all different types of targets, all different types of insertion methods. I mean, at that point, I would say, our platoon, as far as room clearing and, and house stuff was really dialed in, you know, because we had just spent so much time doing it. But then when we actually did it for real, it just went very different. Like it just felt tactics wise like it was awkward and slower, you know, and some of the kind of basic principles that are, you always do this and then this and then this. Like I found at least for me, and it seemed like observationally that we were doing it a little different. Like it didn't mirror exactly how we had trained it. And it was kind of one of those epiphanies almost of like, wow, there's training and there's real world and they're not the same thing.
It was definitely sloppier
than
training because you're running at a different speed when people are shooting at you.
For sure.
So I would say that we were probably more spread out than like our tight, I'm up, he sees me, I'm down. You know, you're definitely running faster. The online wasn't as like, okay, am I even? It was more like,
I guess that's a line.
You know, so it was definitely not as textbook.
Fields of fire, probably a little more dangerous, a little closer.
Yeah, it was definitely not as textbook looking as our Nyland runs. You know,
that's funny.
So it was definitely sloppier. You know,
you've mentioned a couple times doing God's work. I'm curious, as your path of faith has you know, transpired in the subsequent years after that deployment, is that something that you carried with you and thought about a lot of, or I guess did you ever think of, does God really endorse us doing this, you know, as a morally just thing, or are we just doing what our country tells us to do? Is that anything you A, thought about, or B, ever even struggled with?
I never struggled with it. You asked me about quotes earlier. I know you know this quote. It's by Edmund Burke. All it takes for evil to triumph is for good men to stand by and do nothing. I've always believed that. I believed we were fighting evil. I still believe that to this day. So I believe we were upright and just in all our actions and deeds over there. Is combat? Yeah. Do certain things happen in combat? Is war an ugly thing? Yes. But I didn't want anything like a September 11th to ever happen again. And it does take good men to stand up to evil and make those evil people go away. And if you read the Old Testament, my goodness, that's what, you know, God's people were being asked to do, to make the evil go away. So it's I never once found any type of conflict internally with that.
As that deployment wrapped up, that was your first deployment, right? Was that, of all the deployments you did, would you characterize that as kind of the pinnacle deployment activity-wise?
Activity-wise, yes. So we came back, and of course, we're kind of the rock stars of like Team 7, right? You come back, you know, it's like the guys that came back, you know, from Task Unit Bruiser, right? They're kind of the rock stars of the team, right? Because they got to do a lot of, you know, God's work, right, over there. So we're kind of like a little bit of celebrity status, you know, right there for a couple months. But then you just get right back into the swing of everything. And then Admiral Winters had come out and said, hey, no West Coast teams, you may remember this, are going to go back to Afghanistan. We're going to do regionalization. The East Coast needs to get over there some, and nobody's going back. So they pulled all of Team 7 in, and I had orders to go to sniper school because I'm not a sniper. I wanted to be. That's why I was with Kenny almost all the time, because I was like, hey, teach me the sniper stuff, right? Our sniper. And I had orders to go to sniper school, but they had pulled all the Team 7 and that's when they told us about regionalization and nobody was going back. And they said, there's only one way for you to go back, and it's a 1-year deployment. And we only need one person. And you may or may not see combat. We don't know yet. You're going to kind of be like in a liaison kind of position. And Master Chief Lewis put it out. And I look around, and he's like, do we have any volunteers? And not one person volunteered. So I raised my hand.
Wow. Why do you think nobody rogered up for it? Was it the ambiguity of?
I think it was a year.
Yeah.
I think it was the ambiguity of you may or may not see combat. We don't know. And some of the guys that were with me at TU Trident, only 3 of us. At first, there was going to be Alpha Platoon that got to go back to Afghanistan. And they're like, okay. So now they're starting to pick all of us. Like, okay, we're all going to be Alpha Platoon, right? Because we're going to get to go back. Who wants to be an Alpha? And at the time, we were Echo Platoon. And only 3 of us volunteered to go to Alpha. Everybody else was like, dude, I'm burned out on this. I need a break. But we had guys that were already having PTSD type symptoms. But I never felt any of that. I felt like I volunteered to stay an extra 3 months there. And then I had my daughter, my second daughter, when I was over there.
And you remarried at this
I was remarried, and I had my second daughter when I was over there. And they made me come home. But I was like, the new task unit commander was like, hey, I need a corpsman with experience. I'm like, I'll stay. He's like, would you mind staying with my platoon for 3 months? I'm like, no, I'll do it. I just felt like I was right where I belonged. But then my head shed wouldn't let me stay.
Wow. So
they're like, you just had a baby. We've been doing this for 6 months. You need a break. I'm like, I don't need a break. I'm right where I'm at. I'm right where I want to be. And they're like, no, you got to go home. So but like I said, only 3 of us were like, we're going to go to Alpha Platoon because Alpha Platoon was due to go back to Afghanistan. Everybody else was like, we need a break. And then they go, okay, well, actually nobody's going back now due to this regionalization by winners. And we only have this one position. And I think the guys with me were kind of burned out. And I think the other guys just didn't want to be there a year.
Yeah.
They're like, man, a year, that's a long deployment. So I volunteered for that. Lost my orders to sniper school because I volunteered for it because they were like, well, you're going to go to language school now. So they sent me to language school for 4 months in D.C. to learn Pashtun. So I'm like, great. This is horrible compared to sniper school. I come back, everything has changed again. They're like, well, a couple of platoons are going to get to go, but we're going to put you with this other platoon, this RAP platoon that's going to be made up of West Coast and East Coast guys, and you're going to have a special mission over there. Have you ever done a RAP platoon? It's a little different.
What does that stand for?
Risk Assessment Team, or Rapid Assessment Team.
Oh, okay.
Basically, level 2, level 3 stuff.
Oh, I got you.
Okay.
And for the listener, can't really talk about what that is, unfortunately. I try to explain for the non-acronym lover.
Yeah.
But there's really no way to explain that sensitively, so we'll just leave it at that. But
so I went back over there, and I stayed a year doing that stuff. And that, I mean, I learned a whole different side of the job.
Yeah.
But I got to do some pretty cool stuff over there too, doing that I can't talk about.
Yeah.
Then home for 2 weeks, back to Afghanistan again.
Wow.
And then came back. I did 2 JSETs to Lebanon all during that time.
Any substantial work there, or was it more benign?
Doing
in the Lebanon JSET?
It was benign.
Okay.
The first time I went there was more. Yeah. The second time it was like,
I guess
Well, train these guys.
Yeah. I mean, I guess outside of the training aspect, because that's such a hotbed that seems to spill over into the ideology of the entire region. What was your overall perspective of what it was like there?
I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
I mean,
here's the thing. It's almost impossible to show up for your family, your work, your country when you're running on no sleep. That was me. Tossing and turning, ceiling staring, dragging through the next day on caffeine just to survive it. That's no way to operate. Dream changed that. I sleep through the night now. I wake up clear-headed and actually present for the people who need me. No groggy haze, no next day fog. Dream is made with a powerful blend of all natural ingredients: reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin. The chocolate peanut butter flavor that they sent me tastes like hot cocoa before bed. I genuinely look forward to it, and Beam has improved over 28 million nights of sleep across this country. Spring is here, and summer's right around the corner. This is the season to show up strong, do it with something made by Americans, for Americans, and you're going to do it with Dream. Go to shopbeam.com/micdrop and use the code MicDrop, all caps, all one word, to get my exclusive offer for up to 40% off Beam's Dream Powder. So with my discount code MicDrop, you can get their best-selling Dream Powder for just $39. If you've been meaning to fix your sleep, this is the time. Get Dream, their best-selling sleep powder, for up to 40% off.
it was awkward because like the fighting was in Tripoli, which is a few hours away, but like now you're going to nightclubs.
Wow.
And you can, they call it the Christian, but what they really mean by Christian is Western. So it's like,
or just non-Muslim.
Just non-Muslim, right? So it's there's drinking and there's nightclubs and there's partying, and the women over there are amazing. Like I've never seen women as amazingly gorgeous as like the Armenian and the Lebanese women.
Yeah. I guess from if the goal is to put yourself in the adversary's shoes, mm-hmm. Did the time you spent there give you any other? Did it broaden your perspective at all as to understanding their point of view at all, or did it do or accomplish none of that? So I think it's always important to, like, for the people that hate you and want to fight you, to understand where it's coming from, not to appease them, but at least understand where the drive is.
You were in Iraq, right? And mm-hmm. I was in Afghanistan more often. So like, I think the difference between them is they don't have anything. What are they going to grow up and be? And there's, they don't have sports.
So do you feel like that absence of what most people here would consider worth living for drives them to cling on to the ideology side?
I think, you knew exactly where I was going with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. I think when you don't have anything, and you're a young man, you don't have anything to believe in, you don't have a group to be part of or belong to, there's nothing else, but then there's this one group, and you can be part of that. And then they're just taught to hate us from when they were little. I remember when I lost faith in Afghanistan.
Faith in Christ.
Not faith in Christ. Faith in when I'm like, we should just make this whole place a parking lot.
Yeah.
Like,
was it a specific moment?
Yes.
Care to share?
Yeah, I'll share. I won't bring that up and then not share.
Yeah. You never know. I could tell you, I'm not gonna.
Like, before I used to think like, I guess like, hey, this is war, but there are good people here, and we should try to, like we said we were going to do, try to win the hearts and minds of the people, and then they can be a free people and actually appreciate the United States and be part of the support. And then one day I had something happen, and I was like, I think we should just get rid of everyone. So one of the things when I was doing the other mission that I was talking about was one of the things I would do was, with my medical skills, I would go in and I'd impersonate a doctor, and I would see the villagers. And I'm like, I went into a village. I was embedded with some Army guys, and they were going in, and I was a civilian doctor. And I was there to treat the kids and the villagers. And so I'm like, can you show me where the clinic's at? I had an interpreter attached to me, and they take me to where supposedly the clinic is so I can, set up a little medical station and start to help people. And they open up the doors to the clot, and which is always just like some hanging sheet or some piece of metal just kind of scrapped up there, like a tin roof just turned over on its side, right? Sheet metal. And so open it up, and I've never seen so much trash inside a courtyard. There's this medical waste, trash, feces, blood, syringes, everywhere. Like years of this stuff just shoved outside the building into the courtyard. And I had a little boy run up to me who was mentally handicapped because he'd never seen anybody look like me, right? Mm-hmm. And he's barefoot and in rags. And he's stepping over all the needles that had been used and all the medical equipment and the shit and the piss and the everything else. And I'm like, this kid is running around in this. And he's just like, almost attaches himself to me. He's probably like, I don't know, 6 or 7, wasn't all the way there. And just followed me everywhere I went. But I was just like, they're letting this kid just run around. And I'm like, that was the day I was like, yeah, I don't know if there's any saving this place.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's a disheartening observation and thought process for sure. Did anything come out of you doing that? Like, did you accomplish what the task of being embedded in that role was?
Yes and no. A lot of times the fruits of your labor you won't see until months or years after you're gone.
Yeah.
And that's just the truth of it. I'll tell you afterwards.
I got you.
What I was doing.
Yeah.
But you do a lot of stuff that you hope leads to good, and some of it's worthless, and some of it actually does lead to something.
Right.
This part of this stuff did actually lead to something.
Right. You just can't.
But not all of it did.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah,
that's just the way.
That's just
the way it goes.
Yeah. All right. So you have that deployment. You've got your 2 JSET deployments to Lebanon.
Yeah, I've got another one to Afghanistan, and then my last deployment, I was the Cree in UAE.
Okay. Did your last Afghanistan deployment, was it busy operationally, or was it fairly benign?
That's when I got to do something really cool. That again has to do with more kind of
sensitive
stuff. I wish I could talk more about like just the operational side. Like I got to talk about some of the stuff like at the beginning, like a 5-day firefight, and some of the other things that were just awesome. Where I could be like, we were doing this and we were doing that. I was surrounded by ninjas.
Yeah. Is there anything detail-wise you can provide without stepping over boundaries? And if not, that's fine. I don't want to put you in an awkward spot.
No, but every once in a while you get to be proud you were part of something.
And it was one of those moments.
It was one of those things.
Something extravagant or spectacular came out of the work that you did.
Ish. Ish.
It was
Because
impactful.
there's I kind of have different perspectives on it now, as you get older,
Right.
and you look back and then you think about, well, what did that accomplish really?
Yeah.
And now it's so hard, when we left Afghanistan the way we did. And, I lost friends over there. I know you knew people too, and you probably lost people in Afghanistan that you cared about and brothers that you had. And then leaving that place the way that we did, that's why it's kind of like, well, what was all that for?
Yeah. I don't disagree. I mean, I feel the same way about Iraq,
Yeah.
When you look at the cost in every way, coupled with, I'd say the tenets with which we were told as to why we were going there and what it would accomplish, and then looking at it present day, I have the exact same feeling. It's like I don't see where the lives lost and the resources that we expended was worth the outcome. I have a difficult time reconciling the justification for even going in the first place based on what we were told versus what were there. I want to be fair to the decision makers and say, my hope is that they were making the best decision that they could with the information they had at the time, and they truly felt like this was our best decision or best foot forward, and it just happened to not be. There's only a handful of people on the planet that know if that's accurate, but yeah, that is a tough thing, and I think that shapes a lot of combat veterans from this generation. We'll say the Generation X, which is the predominant, and maybe some of the older millennials of war fighters that have fought over the last 25 years. But I think that inspires the thought process that a lot of us have with our aversion to seeing Iran heat up and continued interactions and engagements that you see over there, which we'll certainly get into. But that being your last Afghanistan deployment, you did the Cree deployment from Dubai. Anything come out of that, or was it just sitting there in 5-star hotels on per diem?
Yeah, I didn't get to stay in a 5-star hotel while I was there. I did get to do some fun stuff. I traveled a little bit, but it was mostly getting spun up and spun down. Oh, we got something.
Yeah.
Oh,
the balloon went up.
Oh, yeah.
No, it didn't.
So it was quite a frustrating deployment, especially when you're trying to keep the sled dogs motivated.
Yeah.
And you're getting spun up and spun down, spun up and spun down, and then the deployment just ends up being a ULT again, where we're just training all the time, but we just happen to not be going home at the end of the day.
Right.
So it's I would tell people, when I was a chief of combatives, I would read the guys a man speech in SQT, and I would talk to them about certain things. And I would say, you really find out what kind of man you are, not in combat. I'm like, you guys are all here. You wanted to be SEALs. You were made for combat. That's where you're going to thrive. That's where you're going to be like, I belong. This is what I was made for. I'm like, you find out who you are when you do all this training for combat. When you're made for that, when you're bred for that, and then it doesn't show up. That's when you know what kind of guy you're going to be.
Yeah.
Are you going to be the man that blames the head shed, that bitches, that complains, that turns negative? Or are you still going to be a professional operator and be like, well, I'm still going to just do the best I can to keep increasing my skill set until the enemy does show up or something does pop off.
Yeah.
I'm like, but you're going to find out who you are, not in combat, but when you're bored.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to have a good attitude when you're busy doing the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
So, and you were married this whole time. It sounds like probably a much more understanding spouse.
I had the best wife ever.
Yeah.
I got marriage wrong twice. So I'm on my third. But we've been together for 22 years.
Oh, wow. And is this the spouse that you had your second daughter with?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you were married once in between those two?
So I got married. Yeah. So I got married 3 days after I turned 21.
Oh, wow.
That one lasted about a year and a half.
Okay.
And then I got remarried to my daughter, my oldest daughter's mom. We were dating. She got pregnant, so I married her. Because I'm like, well, that's what a man does. You get a woman pregnant and you get her married. We should never have gotten married.
Yeah.
But I was just...
Thought it was the right thing.
Thought it was the right thing. It was rogering up. Well, taking responsibility.
Yeah. Right?
You did this. You knew what it could lead to. And I talk about it more in the book on how kind of messed up it was. But that ended up lasting about 2.5 years. Yeah. Right? And then it was funny. Remember when I told you the detailer did me the best decision ever?
Sending me to Okinawa.
Well, he did that to me, and then I was like, well, that whole relationship is over. A week later, I was at In Cahoots.
In San Diego?
In San Diego, country bar. And I ran into Casey Miller. And the last thing I was looking for was another woman. I mean, I was looking for one that I could take home that night. Casey was not that woman, but she came up to me and was like, blah, blah, blah. I won't go into the whole story. But ended up getting her phone number, calling her the next day. And then we kind of dated, even though I was still married. But I was honest with her. I told her everything. Like, hey, this kind of just happened to me. Like, I'm leaving to go to Okinawa. I'm like, I don't know what the future looks like for us. And she was like, okay. And when I left, we were both kind of like, well, it's been a fun 6 weeks. We'll see if we keep in touch. And then we actually did. And we built a friendship over the phone for a year, which was different than every other relationship was, to be honest, purely sexual, until 6 months later I found out, wait, I actually don't like you as a person. With Casey, I actually liked her as a person and who she was. Came back from Okinawa. Wendy, my ex, wanted to get back together. I'm like, no, I'm finally with a good woman, and I'm not going to waste it. I'm not going to throw her away on you. I've thrown enough away on you. Yeah. I wasn't that harsh, but that was my mindset. Right. But I told Wendy, no, you left me when I needed you the most. I'm never going to trust you again. I'm with a good person now, and I'm going to stay with her. Yeah. And Casey, we took off kind of right where we left off, and we've been together ever since.
Wow.
And she has been nothing but amazing. She was waiting for me at 6:18 after Hell Week, when we were doing the zombie march back from back from medical and back from the grinder with your pizza box and your 2-liter.
Gatorade.
Yeah, but she was there waiting on me. I'll never forget how pretty she looked. But yeah, then through all the deployments and everything else, she's done nothing but support me. I was going to screen for 6, and she's a school teacher. She teaches, well, she was. Now she doesn't teach anymore. We were able to retire her by moving her when we came back to Texas. But she was teaching 3rd grade and tenured, and we lived in the same neighborhood or the same little community that she grew up in. So every time I was deployed, she had her parents right there, her brother right there with his family. Everybody, all her friends from growing up were still there, very embedded in the community. And then she taught in the local school right there in Rancho Penasquitos.
Yeah.
So just over by Poway, just north of Miramar. Small, little, quaint, suburban area. And I come off one of the deployments, and I, had been really working on all my CQC skills and my shooting skills and everything else to be sure that I could screen positive, and then not fail once I got there. And so I came back and I'm like, hey, babe, I know I've had a cool job, but I want like a really cool job. And I knew it would be taken away from everything she'd ever known. And her knowing me as well as she does, she goes, and this is like after she put up with the whole year-long deployment, goes, whatever you need, Randy, to make you happy. She's like, I'm with you no matter what. I was like, holy crap, how can I do this to this woman?
Yeah.
How can I just pick her up, move her to the East Coast where she doesn't know anybody from her support base and be gone just as much, if not more. I'm like, so I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it to her.
Wow.
And it ended up working out because I ended up becoming the chief of combatives, and that set my whole career and life in a whole different, direction.
Right. So from the time, from your first, your third marriage, when that started, had you been training, grappling, et cetera, during your operational years at the command, other than or outside of any of the SEAL combative stuff, or did you start it after that?
I dabbled in it a little bit, but never seriously to say that I was anywhere good at anything. I really didn't deep dive into it until I became the chief of combatives.
So I guess the burning question is, how do you get put into that position?
Yeah, I would like to say that, I was hand selected, like everybody likes to say.
They wanted me.
Yeah. Pure God's grace. I'd actually, when I was leaving the team, I was a chief, and the chief detailer, you fill out your form just like you do as a E6 and everything else. And I had put in to go to BUBS and to SQT, and that's where I thought I was going to get it. And I got a call while I was still on deployment. He's like, hey, Randy, would you like to go to combatives, come be the chief of combatives? I'm like, that's even an option? He was like, yeah, do you want to do it? I'm like, 100% I want to do it. He's like, okay, you're in. And that was it.
Wow.
And I didn't realize how it was kind of a highly sought after position.
Oh, I imagine.
And it just fell in my lap. And it wasn't because of any experiences I had or any type of fight skill that I had, or because the guy didn't even know me.
So, do you know what his thought process was for?
I have no clue.
Yeah. Because I think myself and most people would assume, hey, if we're looking for a chief to run the combatives program, we want a guy that has trained and is well versed in all the schools and has been training outside martial arts for years. And
yeah,
but
I don't know if any of that had came into his decision making on calling me up and putting me in that in that position. He was a master chief.
Just a more of a leadership skills thing he was looking for, I imagine.
I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, there were two guys in the combatives department that we had served together already before, and they liked me. And when they found out I was coming in, they were like, "Oh, great!" But I don't think they had said anything to the chief that was running the department to request me or anything, other than when he found out, hey, I'm going to get this guy Rozzell come in to replace you. And he was probably like, you guys know Rozzell? And they're like, oh, yeah, Randy's good,
Yeah.
But
Wow.
other than that,
yeah. So,
there was no special skill that I provided to the combatives department or that would have, landed me that position.
Yeah, thinking about it now, I imagine that was the train of thought is, just like in a lot of the SEAL platoons, not that a SEAL chief can't be a good operator or doesn't need to be a good operator, but if you've got instructors that know the curriculum and are good at it, somebody in the leadership role, there's so many things outside of actual hands-on combative stuff that are a part of running a shop like that, I assume that's more important.
Yeah, I wasn't forged in CQD or any of that stuff, so it was pure like I said, God's grace.
Yeah.
Now, I was very passionate about combatives. I'd gotten a couple of hand-to-hand fights for my life in some of the platoons before. So
really?
I became, yeah.
Can you share any of them?
Sure. On that first platoon, we had just made entry into the Collagen, and there was a Collagen attached to it, but the main building was still kind of a ways away. And the main assault force was going to make entry on the building, and my chief goes, "Hey, Randy, Mel, go check out that side door that leads to the other Collagen and be sure nobody's there." We went over there, and there were 3 MAMs standing right there. And so Mel's holding on them, and I'm kind of to the side of the door where they can't see me. And, he's telling them, to put their hands up and come out slowly, Delta Russia, right? And so the first guy comes out, I grab him, snatch him up, take him down, zip tie him. Mel's still holding on the others. Second guy comes out, the same thing, take him down, get him zip tied. The third guy has figured out that something is going on. So go to take this guy down, and he posts and does a double leg on me, like a version of a double leg, pretty much tackles me to the ground. And Mel can't help me because he's still holding long on the other people that are in the background. Now it's mostly women and children back there up by the Collagen, but he doesn't know, you can't turn your back on him. He's got to hold them. And the rest of the platoon is up already starting to do the clearance, and Mel and I are trying to hurry up, get these guys wrapped up so we can go be part of it, right?
Yeah.
So, and this guy double legs me and takes me to the ground. And now we're rolling on the ground. And, there was no CQ2 fire hands that were going to help me out of that situation. Somehow I ended up on top of the guy. And now from my Marine Corps martial arts background, I knew to use open hand palm strikes and drop elbows. But I'd never been in a fight for my life like that. So I just converted literally back to silverback and just punching as hard as I could on this guy. And he had been out, I don't know, for probably several seconds before I realized he was actually out, because every time I'd hit him, his head would bounce. And my nods are sideways on me now, right? So my helmet's sideways, my nod's over here, my bridge of my nose is bleeding because I got smashed into my face. My comms wires are halfway choking me out, right? My gun was already slung behind me because, the first 2 guys, when he was holding on, I slung it behind me so I could use both my hands, and I'm just hitting this guy. And I knew I finally, I zip tied him. He was unconscious. I hit him way more times than I needed to. I ended up breaking my hands. I didn't know I broke my hands until my next deployment. Kind of a funny story there. But, yeah, and that scared the crap out of me because, like I said, it was just me and him. And then I really thought about it a lot, because it scared me. I'm like, holy crap, that was kind of like a Saving Private Ryan kind of moment. And I'm like, all right, if that ever happens again, I'm not going to bust my hands up. I can still do this. So I'm like, okay, I'm good, right? They're bruised and they're swollen, but I can still do this. I can still operate. So I never said anything. And who was I going to, I was a corpsman anyways. Who the hell was I going to tell? Yeah. Other than go in the clinic, and I wasn't going to go do that on Kandahar. So literally about 3 weeks later, I had the same damn thing happen.
Wow. Same result.
Similar situation. And I, sure enough, clinched up, went right back to silverback. This guy, I thought, had an S-vest on. So a little slightly different.
Yeah.
But it, and I'm like, okay, if I ever end up there again, I'm going to drop elbows and I'm going to use open hand palm strikes so I don't break my hands all to hell. I did the same damn thing.
Yeah.
So after that deployment, I became passionate about combatives. And I started taking Krav Maga on the side whenever I could, and it was okay. And then there was it's funny, 'cause, this was back then, so there's an LA boxing around the corner from my house. But on like certain nights of the week, they would do MMA class. So I'd go down there and try to learn MMA just, whenever I was in town, showing up randomly, which is not a good way to try to learn MMA. But there's nothing else close to me.
Yeah.
And that's what I would go do sometimes, that and go to Krav Maga class from time to time. But that was really, other than the Marine Corps martial arts experience that I had, the Taekwondo growing up and all the fights I had growing up, that was the only experience I had going into being the chief of combatives.
So when you first showed up, how would you characterize their program, like to Reader's Digest, what it centered around and changes that you made? And ultimately, I'm curious, like what training did you go through to run it?
So
it's midweek, you're tired, you're hungry, and you already know what's for dinner. The same 3 meals you've been rotating for the last 6 months. And look, there's nothing wrong with comfort food, but there's part of you that's been wanting something different. Something that feels like an actual experience, not just fuel. That's what HelloFresh has done for me. They send everything straight to your door, pre-portioned, ready to go, 0 grocery runs. But what's gotten me is the variety. There's over 80 global recipes every month. Vietnamese, Moroccan, Caribbean, ingredients like lemongrass, gochujang, curry paste, the kind of stuff you'd never just pick up at the store on a Tuesday night. But with HelloFresh, it's all there, set up for you, no recipe hunting, no wasted ingredients. I use it, and you should too. When dinner is this good and this easy, there's no excuse to default to takeout, because nothing hits home like home cooking. Go to HelloFresh.com/MicDrop10FM now to get 10 free meals plus a free breakfast for life. 1 per box with active subscription, free meals applied as discount on the first box and new subscribers only. It varies by plan. That's HelloFresh.com/MicDrop10FM to get 10 free meals plus free breakfast for life.
The fight for CQD was still there when I showed up. The chief before me had realized CQD was worthless. So, now I was no means the only SEAL that realized that. When I first got to Team 7, I got to go through Links Combatives training, and I was like, this is what we should be doing. This is it. But it never took off in the teams. I don't know if you remember that.
In Virginia Beach?
It was called Links. The guys were out of Virginia Beach. They had come here.
Yeah. And
I'm like, this is way closer to what we should be learning. It was way more MMA based. And I loved it. But so we were still in the fight with CQD. Now the chief before me, he had kind of replaced the program with the new program, but CQD and Dwayne Dieter was not going down without a fight. So he had come back in and had put me and the whole instructor staff through a whole nother CQD block. And all it did, so now I'm learning from the horse's mouth, right? The guy that came up with it. And all it did was solidify that it was the wrong program for us.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is so subpar for today's any operator's needs, but really today's operators' needs. And I was disappointed in CQD other than the staff, because I thought the staff was awesome when I went through SQT. Those SEALs were great. Mm-hmm. But the program itself, after coming from, the MCMAP program, I'm like, I couldn't wait to become a SEAL. I'm like, oh, cool, I'm going to be like Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
And it was all like, what the hell was that? Right.
Yeah. I think even at the age that I learned it, I found myself wondering, this doesn't seem like we should be doing this, and it doesn't seem like it's that effective. But yet, like with a lot of things that don't make sense in the military, it drug on year after year for longer than it should have. But
so the current SQT course was a little bit more MMA based. I just took it and ran with it. I got rid of CQD totally. I ended up, it became super political. Congressman Duncan Hunter had put a out in the San Diego Tribune that sealed. This is how political it got. The congressman, the article came out in the San Diego Tribune that he was worried about the future of Naval Special Warfare combatives, that we were leaving CQD, a tried and proven system, and that we were moving to something else, and it was going to get SEALs killed and all this. I had to write the Admiral's response to that.
Wow.
And I tore that system up. And I wrote the response, went all the way up to the Admiral, because my CEO was like, hey, Randy, nobody knows how to answer this. Can you answer what he's accusing us? Went back down to him, never heard anything about it again.
Wow.
So evidently it worked.
Damn, that's amazing.
But what we didn't have, so I'm like, great. There might be about 10 SEALs in the whole community that know this new program, other than the current SQT kids that are coming out. So we didn't have a way to make instructors. So what I did was me and my staff, we were going to the arena there in San Diego, and we were training every day at the arena for a few hours. And then we brought in a professional MMA coach, and we had him put us through about 4 MMA fight camps. And you go through one of those, you become pretty good pretty quickly. Plus, I had a black belt in jiu-jitsu that was my corpsman there, and I was doing privates with him every single day. And we were just going to course after any combatives course we could find in the country, we were going to, because we were trying to make this the number one course in the, in special operations. Thank you. And do you know what the training conference is?
Uh-uh.
So once a year in NSW, they have a training conference. 1 year it's on the West Coast, 1 year it's on the East Coast. And they bring in all the department heads from like sniper school, comm school, dive, air, everybody. Every course that we run, all the department heads come together and they brief pretty much the guys that run the community on where we're taking our programs. So I went to the training conference, and now I was a chief, and I'd been in 19 years at this point. And I'm looking around, I'm like, I might be the most junior guy in here.
Wow. A lot of experience.
A lot of experience. A lot of master chiefs, warrant officers, commanders, captains. And I'm just like, man, like, okay, these are the dudes that are running it, right? We had the CEO from Red Squadron there, which cool story about him. But I tell them, because I've got my 10 minutes for combatives. It's a 3-day conference, and every department head kind of gets like their little,
spiel or whatever.
Spiel to tell them where we're taking the community, what we want to do, what we need support with. And I told them, I'm like, hey, we suck at combatives. They're like, what? I was like, we suck. I'm like, we're supposed to be Navy SEALs. We claim we're tip of the spear. I'm like, we give an SQT kid 1 week of combatives, and that's supposed to last them an entire year. An entire career. I'm like, I've been in this long, and I've never been refreshed on any part of it. 0. I'm like, but yet we're supposed to show up and be able to wrap up everybody, be able to, fight, not just gunfight, but what are we? We're American gunfighters, right? I need to be able to shoot a gun and to fight. I'm like, and we can't fight right now. We think we can, but we can't. I'm like, if MMA showed the world anything, I'm like, it showed us what works and what doesn't work. I'm like, the Marine Corps does a MCMAP program. I'm like, I was a MCMAP instructor. I'm like, it takes 10 weeks to make a black belt instructor. I'm like, the Army, because I got to do modern Army combatives when I went through 18 Delta, I'm like, it takes 11 weeks for them to become a level 4 instructor, which is their highest level instructor. I said, we're Naval Special Warfare. I'm like, we're supposed to be the epitome of warriors. We give an SQT kid 1 week and think he's good for the rest of his career. I'm like, that's not what this community should be doing. We are not the best right now, and we say we're the best at everything, and we suck here. I'm like, I want to create a 6-week combatives instructor course. I want to put a combatives subject matter expert in every platoon. I'm like, just like we do comms, just like we do breaching, just like we do, every other skill. I'm like, this is a skill, and it needs to be sustained. And lo and behold, they approved it.
And what?
Lo and behold, they approved it.
Oh, wow.
They said, okay, Randy, take it and run with it. Wow. So I did. So I got to develop the first 6-week combatives instructor course, and I got to run 4 of them. I'd run 2 a year, and I got to run 4 of them before I retired. And the commander of Red Squadron, I won't say his name right now in case he's still in, I had him and a couple other Master Chiefs come up to me afterwards. They were like, Randy, that was spot on. They're like, it's about time we admitted we suck at this, and we need to be better. Anything you need at all.
Oh, wow.
Let us know.
So what was your thought process like conceptually for developing it? What did you break it down into? Blocks of takedown, striking,
I needed help. I knew that. Like I said, I had my own experiences. I knew what worked tactically. I'd been in a few fights for my life, which, gives you experience and insight real quick on what works and what doesn't work. But I wasn't the person to run it all and put it all together. I needed help. So we had been training at the arena, and there were pro MMA coaches there. So I worked with one specifically, Charles Martinez. He's on the East Coast now. Him and I got together, and over the course of 6 months, made the first combatives instructor course. And what was so cool about it was I had ex-div guys that I would go get, or have my guy. I never went and got him. I'd have one of my guys go get him. But bring him in, put him in role player gear, and whatever we were pressure testing and technique, we would fight with these kids. And I was a dummy for most of it because I was the oldest one. I'm like, well, okay, well, if I'm the old man that can do it, the young bucks can do it.
Yeah.
All right, and we took about 6 months, and we developed hands down the best combatives course in special operations.
How did you? What is it broken down into? Like in that 6 weeks, can you give us the outline?
So it's married of about 6 different disciplines, right? Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, boxing, judo, and Kali, which is Filipino knife fighting, right? And then prisoner handling, arrest, and control techniques. So it really just kind of starts off with like basics, like breaking grips when somebody gets a hold of you. We go in to take somebody down, right? Because I don't know about you, but I've wrapped up way more people than I shot. So that's just what I found myself doing the most was wrapping more people up than I was going bang bang. Especially on target. So what do we do when they get a hold of us? How do we break grips, right? How do we take them down to the ground? Right? So we'd start literally that simple. Wow. And then it just built, over the course, it just built on top of that. And then to keep it from being boring, we'd be like, all right, these are the basics of striking. These are the basics of jiu-jitsu and the positions we can end up in, right? These are the takedowns we want to do. For the wrestling, it's not like we were teaching people double legs. We would teach them double legs, but it wasn't so they could double leg people, it's so they knew how to defend it. So and then it was just an immersion in that for 8 hours a day.
Yeah. So
the people that came out, you do anything 8 hours a day for 6 weeks. So week 5, they would help us teach an SQT class. every Friday was teach backs. They had to teach us back everything they learned all week, right? Was something we implemented in. The 5th week was I would make it where it corresponded with us and an SQT class. So it'd be like, you guys are going to watch us teach this SQT class, and you're going to help them, and you're going to critique them, and you're going to help us instruct them.
Yeah.
So, and then week 6 was their FTX, where I'd put them through the kill house, and they had to use all their SEAL skills along with operating, with getting in fights, to put all of the skills together.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome. Did you keep track of or ever hear about any of the students that went through any of these courses actually using them in combat and being successful with them? Like, did you get any after actions?
Not an official after action. I would just have guys come up to me from time to time. The only closest thing I got to an official after action was something I kind of got in a little bit of trouble for. I had 2 Border Patrol guys. They were part of their SOG team. They were Boar Star that would come down and help work our Hell Weeks. Right? Did you ever run across any of them when you were
No, not
instructor?
Not for working Hell Week, no.
So they would help the corpsmen out. So it was just an arrangement. Well, my corpsman, who was just a Navy corpsman, but he happened to be a black belt in jiu-jitsu and judo, would every Hell Week send him down, let him go work Hell Weeks, because he wanted to work Hell Weeks, and he had came from first phase anyway, so he knew all the guys.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, man, go down, go work a Hell Week. We're fine. We don't need you.
Yeah.
I'm a corpsman. I'm a medic.
Yeah.
Cool, go do it. And he had met a couple of Boar Star guys, and at the time, I don't know if you remember this, 2 Border Patrol agents had been disarmed and shot with their own weapons.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, okay. So you remember that. So these 2 that were working Hell Week, that had just happened, they were talking about their combatives and how it wasn't very good. And my corpsman was like, well, you should go talk to Randy. So they came up and they came talk to me. And the 2 guys that were working the Hell Week that were part of their assault leaders. So they're like, could we come to your course? And I'm like, yeah, you can come to the course. And I got approval for them to come, but there was a miscommunication. They got approval to come watch the course.
Oh, no.
They thought they were there to be part of the course. So when they show up and they're like, oh man, we can't wait. I'm like, you guys think you're going to be part of it? They're like, yeah. They're like, I'm like, shit.
Oops.
Whatever.
Yeah.
You guys do it. Don't hurt an SQT kid. So I let 2 of them go through the course, right? I'm like, just don't hurt an SQT kid, okay? Because I would,
Yeah.
And they went through it. And literally 2 weeks later, one of the guys gets into has a thing where he's attacked by illegals, and he goes, Randy, hands down, your course saved my life.
Oh, wow. Do you know what happened? Did he tell you the specifics?
He told me a bit of the story. I wouldn't do it the justice that it deserves, because this was, a while ago. But yeah, he was attacked by 3 guys, and he was able to fight them off good enough to get back to his weapon.
Wow.
He was like, I was so glad I went to your course, because had I done what they had taught me, and I had them show me, I'm like, because I didn't want to armchair quarterback them, because when they talked to me about their own guys getting disarmed, I'm like, well, what are they teaching you guys to do? I'm like, and I told them too, very candidly, I'm like, hey, listen, if I'm out there like you guys, and somebody's hiding behind a bush or a tree, and they hit me in the back of the head with a rock or a stick, like, they're going to disarm me too, man. I'm like, I can only fight what I see coming. Yeah. And I'm like, but not saying that happened, that they actually did what they were supposed to do in training. Show me what you're doing in training. And they showed me. I was like, okay, well, I can see how they got disarmed.
Yeah.
So I'm going to teach you how to do this for real.
Wow.
And they came through the course, and one of them literally wrote my CO a letter how the course saved his life.
Damn, that's cool.
So I got pulled up to the COs, and they're like, hey, did you let him go through the course? I'm like, maybe. They're like,
sort of.
bad. I'm like, okay.
When did you start training jiu-jitsu full-time during that path?
2014.
14.
So I took over. I just got back from my last deployment in December 2013. Was over at Combatives 2014. I found jiu-jitsu from that corpsman that was my corpsman, and I did privates with him every single day, and just got lucky. Literally, I had a black belt in judo and jiu-jitsu that worked for me.
Yeah. That
I made give me private lessons every day.
Yeah.
So, and we're still friends to today. We still talk to each other.
Where did he get his black belt from?
Somebody out of Philadelphia. That's where he was from. So he'd been a black belt for a little while.
Okay.
Before he joined, he was already a black belt.
And were you training anywhere in San Diego or just with him?
Just with him, and then the arena.
Okay.
Doing that. Then I ended up, once I retired, I ended up going to Eidson BJJ, which was up in Forest Ranch, and then ended up being in Penasquitos, and that's where I got my black belt from.
Okay. Was it a franchise gym or a...
No, it was just a
one-off.
One-off, family-owned gym.
Yeah.
Ended up being under Marco Barbosa.
Oh, okay. And so how did that transfer into you moving to Texas to teach and train? What was that whole path?
So I retired in 2016 and became a firefighter for the city of San Diego. And once I got off probation and everything else, it was 10 days on,
20 days off.
20 days off, right? I mean, a month, unless you got forced overtime, which they called mandoed. But I had time off, so I'm like, what the heck am I going to do other than train jiu-jitsu? So I just started teaching private lessons and some shooting on the side, just for fun, just to people at the gym, as far as like self-defense stuff. So it's never really meant to be like a big company. It was just something to be fun. So I was doing that while I was working for San Diego Fire. I developed the combative patient program for San Diego Fire because firefighters needed to know how to handle themselves when patients would become combative or bystanders would become combatives, which was a big deal for firefighters to deal with, especially with so many narc overdoses and everything else in some of the neighborhoods you go into. So they didn't have any way to deal with combative patients, so I developed that program for San Diego Fire. But California went crazy during COVID. I don't know if you were there then.
No.
Well, you got lucky.
Yeah, here was pretty manageable. I mean, there were pockets of stupidity, but I would say, generally speaking, the state of Texas handled it better than most.
I liked being a firefighter. I always just felt like I was a team guy, just doing a ride-along, though. I never really felt like a firefighter. And so many people tie their identity into firefighting, like, this is what I am, I'm a firefighter. The same way team guys do SEALs. I just felt like I was still a SEAL, though.
Yeah.
And when COVID came, I watched a department that was supposed to be all about brotherhood and we got each other's backs and all this, kind of just like the SEAL teams, turn into something very, very ugly. I didn't want to get the jab. My wife didn't either. And I saw people that, called me brother, be like, fuck that guy, fire him, get rid of him. He's trying to kill us all. So out of 800 firefighters, 900 firefighters on the job, there's about 800 people ended up getting the jab. And there's about 100 of us that didn't. And those 800 turned on us, man. Our union turned on us. I've been paying all these union dues for years.
Damn, that's crazy.
And they were like, it was insane. So now I'm going into work every day wondering if I'm going to be fired, if my religious exemption was going to go through. My wife was only one of two teachers in her school that didn't get it, and the peer pressure she was under. And we're having like the conversation of like, okay, well, if one of us has to get it, I'm like, it'll be me because I'm more expendable than you. Because I'm like, what if you get this thing and you die? I'm like, what obviously the kids need you more than they need me. Let's just have this conversation. So, and then I got a job offer to come out here and teach jiu-jitsu full time at a gym in Dallas.
Which gym?
I don't want to say,
Okay.
because I ended up having a falling out
Okay.
with the owner, and I don't want to.
Yeah, no problem.
But it started out really good. Got the job offer, came out here. For 2 years, everything was going great. I was teaching jiu-jitsu. I was making money doing private lessons. I was running ranges on the side. But the owner, so that's how I got here, back to Texas, back to home. And we were able to retire Casey. She didn't have to work anymore, so she wasn't stressed out from being a school teacher all the time, which is great, which we always had a good marriage, but it went from good to great, because when your wife doesn't have to work anymore, and she's used to being stressed out all the time, dealing with, 30 kids and then 60 parents and then other teachers, and then all that back from COVID when the kids were just crazy from, being home for a year, and then, being unruly coming back. And 2 of my kids have dyslexia. My wife is very big on reading and the ways we should teach reading, and the district would never listen to her. So, and she was a great teacher. In 2012, she was Teacher of the Year, and then nominated again in 2015. So she had poured her heart and soul into the school district, into the school, and everything else. And then when she was just getting ignored, and then everyone kind of turned against her with the COVID thing, it hurt her a lot. But started teaching jiu-jitsu for 2 years. The owner and I had a falling out, so I just took American Warrior Combatives full time. I said, cool, I can make enough money just teaching ranges and doing private lessons to support us. I did that for just about a year and a half, and I found out I was only really working on weekends. So I'm like, all right, well, I got this other job for a company called Buildium, which I didn't think I was a salesperson, but Buildium sells, we do subscription based software. So it's property management software. It just streamlines rent collection and maintenance requests for property managers and owners. And it kind of fell into my lap from a friend, and turns out I'm pretty good at it, and I believe in the product. So I do that during the week, and I still teach like shooting ranges, and I'll do jiu-jitsu or self-defense private lessons, like, close to me in Justin, because I live in North Lake, which is just south, of South Lake, or just west of South Lake. Most people haven't heard North Lake, but a lot of people heard South Lake. So I'm like, it's over by there. And I still teach self-defense class every Tuesday night in Justin, at Justin Jiu-Jitsu. And yeah, man, that's kind of how it all came about now.
Are you still training yourself at a gym, or? Yeah,
I train at Double Five at Formiga's. Rafael Formiga's Double Five there. I love that gym. Formiga's great. I was training at the lunchtime class, which is a phenomenal class to train at. There's 20, 30 other black belts on the mat. It's more the competition class. But since I got the job with Buildium, I can't make that class anymore. So I train on Tuesdays and Thursdays at the 6:30 a.m. class, and that is a phenomenal class. The guy that does the local Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu, Isaac, he trains at that class, and it's going in and training that class is almost like going to fellowship too.
Oh wow!
Like, it's a lot of hard rolls. There's 5 to 7 black belts, which is a lot for like most gyms, but not for Formigas, because you're used to the 20 or 30 at lunchtime. But still, it's still not bad. Like in the morning at 6:30, and like just this morning, we had a guy going in for hernia surgery. We train hard there. Like there's a warm up, there's 15 minutes of technique, and then it's just rolls Boom. I think we did 40 minutes of just rolling on Tuesday. So I went and trained this morning. And just this morning, we had a guy going in for hernia surgery. Afterwards, we brought everyone together. And the guy that runs Jesus in Jiu-Jitsu classes, we prayed over him, for his surgery and for his family. And then he has a healthy recovery. I'm like, what other gym is doing that?
Yeah.
It's a pretty special place.
For sure. That's awesome. Have you trained with JP Donnell?
Yeah, I've trained with JP. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I got wrapped into the coach that I train with now was there for a while. And,
okay.
And was a black belt there for a while. So, in fact, JP introduced me to him. So, it's funny how small of a world it is. But
yeah,
that's awesome, man.
I didn't know JP trained there until, I had left the gym in Dallas, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to teach. I didn't want to open up my own gym because I like the self-defense and the shooting. Right. And then I'm like, I need to find a good gym. And I went to Argyle, and they're like, you need to go to double. They're like, somebody your size and a black belt needs to go to 555. And I went to Justin, and they said the same thing.
Yeah.
They're like, somebody your size and a black belt needs to go to find like good roles. You're going to have to go to 555. So I went to 555, and I was like, oh yeah, this is the place I need to be. And they're like, and as the guys got to know me a little bit and found out I was a SEAL, they're like, oh, do you know JP? And I'm like, maybe. And then I saw JP, and I'm like, oh yeah, we know each other.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
So yeah, what a great dude he is.
No, he's amazing. I love him. What made you want to write the book? And you also have the product that you developed for training so hard. That if you can show us both. Yeah.
So on the book side, what made me write this book was, it's funny. I never thought I was going to write a book, and when I was teaching the SQT kids, pressing forward this is actually me here running number 2.
Oh,
so
no
it's
shit.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
When you
Which
blow
hell
it
week
up,
was that of the 4 of them? Do you know?
I think this was the one I passed.
Oh,
this
okay.
is the one I finally made it through. I had to put the successful one.
Yeah.
No, and that's the only reason I have the picture of it. Is because that was when I made it through. The photographer's mate, when I graduated, she came up and she was like, hey, these are pictures
That's cool.
from your Hell Week. She's like, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. But I never thought I would write a book, and the kids in SQT would be like, hey, they'd always ask me, what do you think of SEALs writing books? And I never thought I'd be one of them. I always just said, why are they writing the book? And I'm like, is it, like Jocko, who's trying to teach people to be leaders? I'm like, that's a good thing. I'm like, is it like Goggins, who's like trying to inspire people to get fit? That's a good thing. I'm like, is it like Marcus trying to seeing the stories of heroes? I'm like, that's a good thing. I'm like, is a guy writing a book to chest beat and say, look how cool I am? That's not such a good thing. I'm like, so I look at the intent of the book, and I'm like, if the intent is good, I'm like, then they're not just doing it to make money. Now, if they make money, great, good for them. That's how the world goes around. I'm like, but if they're doing it to truly help people and inspire people, I'm like, that's a good reason to write a book. So I never thought I would, but I would sit up at night at the fire station, and me and this other firefighter would sit there and talk, and we're the same age, and we would just tell stories, and I would tell him stories about the teams, and he'd tell me stories, and he'd be like, dude, you got to write a book. And then just other people that I would run into, through jiu-jitsu and everything else, as I got to know more and more people, they'd be like, man, you got to write a book. You got to write a book. And I just kept hearing it again and again and again. So I wrote half of it before I moved to Texas. And then I put it on the back burner because I was just focusing on the gym I was teaching at, being the best instructor I could be there, and focusing on American Warrior Combatives, my company there where I do the teaching. And once I left that gym, I'm like, well, I got time to finish the book. So I finished the book, and I did it. My reason is, I do think I'm the only person that went into Hell Week 4 times. And I thought, like, in today's world where we have so many people, and I didn't have the best upbringing, have so many people that blame things on, being victims, or woe is me, or I had this and I got this excuse. I'm like, well, how can you take, some of these things that maybe give you excuses and turn them into positive things to help you become very resilient?
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to tell my story to help other people become resilient.
Yeah.
And in there I talk about my journey to Christ. I talk about my relationship with Casey. It's just a mini autobiography.
Yeah.
And I thought I could help people that way. And, the 10 people that have read the book said, hey, man, that was a good book.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a good percentage, right? It's 100% satisfaction, right?
Yeah.
No, I love it. I mean, your story of perseverance through, going through Hell Week 4 times. I mean, we've got another SEAL author in here. You can't see him, but our good buddy Clint Emerson is here. Do you know anybody that's gone through 4 times Hell Week?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, he's been through four Hell Weeks.
That's fun.
Yeah,
That's super fun. My wife would say I'm very stubborn.
Yeah, hey, you got to be. It's just an incredibly inspiring journey, and your whole story is fantastic. Before we wrap up here, you also invented a machine to go with a Theragun kind of device, I guess.
Go all the way behind the chair here. Oh, thank you. So
and actually, because you can't grab it, is part of why you invented it, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right, quick cameo. So it's called the Image Stick, which image is just an acronym for individual massage gun extension. Right, that's why I came up with that name. I thought it was better than the reach around.
Yeah,
which
I think it's pronounced image. Yeah. I like reach around actually.
Yeah, but
the black reach around.
Yeah, I've got scripture on my chest, and then so I kind of and if I wanted if it ever does happen to take off and I wanted sports teams to use it, I thought I should probably give it a little bit more of a professional name. But, somewhere along the way, I don't know, the 3 of us have probably done too many push-ups, right? Lifted too many weights and lost a lot of shoulder mobility. Yeah, it's you too, Mario. I'm sorry. I left you out, buddy. Probably not as many push-ups as the 3 of us have done, though.
Probably not.
Fair enough. And so I couldn't reach my back, and everything that I need, that always hurts on me, is usually on my backside. So I invented this stick to hold. It works with about 95% of massage guns. So I can easily just turn it on and reach my back with the compression. I won't turn it on now because I don't want to mess up the audio in here. But this allows me to reach my back to stay in a strong ergonomical position. I can get my lower back. I can get my trigger points. I can get my hamstrings, all from still staying strong and upright. Because if I had this thing and I had to turn around and try to reach my back, I'd cramp up some other part of my body just trying to reach it. And then I use the other end as a trigger point, just like a regular kind of Theragun. I'll just sit in the chair like this and just put it wherever I find that knot and just lean back until that thing dissipates.
Dude, that's awesome, man.
So
I sure appreciate you A, inventing it, and B, bringing me one to try out. I'll definitely use it and report back to you on it, man. That's awesome.
So the book you can get on Amazon, and then this is theimagestick.com.
Okay, awesome.
So,
well, man, Randy, such an inspiring story, and you're into so many of the same things that we're all into, and I'd love to keep in touch with you, being close, and
Thanks,
maybe even try to train at some point if I can get over this knee injury. But,
get your knee better.
Yeah, but yeah, I can't thank you enough for coming and sharing your story. Is there anything you want to mention before we close out?
Not that I can think of offhand, other than just I really appreciate you having me on the show, Mike.
Yeah.
No, it's been an honor.
Yeah, it's been great to meet you and get to know you and hear you share your story. And again, thanks for coming. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
For the viewer/listener, I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, you can choke yourself. And until next time, this is Mic Drop.